Can I help, sir? I'm looking for napkins.
Oh, well,
Here, I'll get you.
I can't even look at that.
How are you?
It's bad.
I was hoping the rain maybe helps.
I heard ya.
Can you give Jim a call? Maybe give Jim a call? Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take your seats, we're about to get started.
Okay, we're gonna get started. If everybody would sit, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisors, if you could please turn on your microphones, I would appreciate it so that you can speak into them. I have turned on the recorder. The time is now 9:32 a.m. I'm going to call the meeting of the Venetian Community Development District to order. Today is Monday, December 11th, 2023. The first item on the agenda is the call to order / roll call. Those supervisors that are present are Rich Rocco, Ernest Booker, Ken Smaha, Jill Pizarnik, and Cheryl Harmon-Tarana. On behalf of District Management is myself, Belinda Blandon. District Council Andy Cohen is present. District Engineer Rick Schaffer is present. Field Manager Keith Livermore is present. We do have John Fowler from Landscape Inspection Services present. General Manager of the River Club Andrew Kale, Julie Cortina, and Ginger Anzalone from Vesta Property Services. And we also do have representatives from LNP present with us as well. And for the record, there are audience members present. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please remove your hats.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Supervisors, before moving forward, Supervisor Cheryl Harmon-Tarana has requested that we amend the agenda to add in proposals that she has obtained for landscaping from LMP and from Troy's Tropics. So she's requested that we add this as a business item.
So moved.
There's a motion by Ernest to add it as a business item. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
When do you want to put it on the agenda?
Um,
3 o'clock.
Since we have LMP present, we could probably cover it under staff reports, add it as part of landscape inspection services.
Okay, that'd be good.
Moving forward with our agenda, the next item on the agenda is the public comment portion of the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, we will limit public comments to 3 minutes per person. Our first speaker is Lee Parati.
Should I get a microphone?
Yep.
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Good morning, everybody. I understand that the landscaping post-hurricane is being addressed, and I'm interested in hearing the progress that's been made on that. It was suggested that a landscape architect be employed by some of the members, that a landscape architect be employed in order to make sure that the plants that are put in survive and that they look appropriate, because I think the place definitely looks a little run down. You probably will all agree with that. Something else that I brought to your attention last time, and I'd like to know whether anything has been done. Are you proposing to add some sort of lighting to the entranceways to the River Club? The walkway after sunset and after dinner is dark and liability to the club if somebody falls. As a matter of fact, one of my neighbors did fall and injure himself. Fortunately, it was not something requiring going to the hospital, but you do leave yourselves open. It's dark out there. And it would be nice to have some lighting, not only lighting, but something attractive that might add to the aesthetics of the place. And I think that's all I have right now to say.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rick Goodman.
Good morning, Rich Goodman, 245 Portofino. I'm sorry I was unable to stay for the discussion of my email at the last meeting, but I did listen to the discussion. I also spoke with Ken afterward to review our positions, and I want to thank him for his time. It was said my email was filled with misinformation, and even though I spoke solely about the restaurants and food and beverage costs in my email, I did not specifically mention restaurants when I mentioned the subsidy. So it seems that the misinformation was merely more of a misunderstanding of my point. So its specificity to food and beverage, the budgeted assessment or subsidy for last year was $478,000 or $340 per household. However, as costs were higher than budget, we lost an additional $90,000, meaning the total assessment was $568,000 or $413 per household. Also stated at the meeting, and I'm summarizing here, is you can go to Paradise Grill for $7, buy a burger there, and they're totally losing money, but they make it up on alcohol. But that's exactly my point, what I stated in my email. It's a lost leader. You can't upsell to an empty seat. You can't sell anything to an empty seat, and we have too many empty seats here. I'm trying to figure out a way to get more people into the seats. Lost leaders occur in every industry, yet I was mocked for suggesting it, or suggesting we lower prices to increase traffic, especially as most of our operating costs are subsidized with the assessment. Excuse me. Also discussed is that I didn't talk about a private club versus a public restaurant, or you can't compare a restaurant to a food truck. I agree you can't compare the sell prices of a food truck to a public restaurant, as their overheads are different, but that's not the case here. So rather than dismissing my premise, please explain to me how a food truck can sell their food for less than we can, while paying their own expenses, while we can't. Cost of food is cost of food, period. And yes, I agree, private clubs are different than outside restaurants, but all I said was we needed to increase participation and described how some outside restaurants do so. I didn't feel it necessary to detail every single aspect of private versus public restaurants. And while a couple of residents with private restaurant experience said the same, you can't compare a private to a public one, several with public and private restaurant experience agree with my email and my points. They understood what I was trying to accomplish with my email, increase participation and find a way to lessen the subsidy.
We're gonna have to move on.
Well, it's not 3 minutes. That was like 2. You cut me off last time I spoke, you cut me off early too. Ken mentioned he's trying to convince friends who haven't been here for the club for years to have dinner with him and drive up interest by word of mouth. And increase participation, that's exactly my point. We need to increase participation. And I provided some reasons why people aren't participating and offered some ideas to address it. My email didn't disparage the food. I gave Brian credit.
Mr. Goodman, your time is out.
Well, no,
Thank you, Rich.
that's fine.
Thank you.
I want to put this into 2 minutes. This was not 3 minutes again. You keep cutting me off early.
I didn't cut you off early. I actually timed you. It was 3 minutes exactly. Our next speaker is Pat Apollonian. Pat?
Good morning. Tim Carr asked me to read a statement for him because he couldn't be here this morning. After reviewing the agenda for today's meeting and the minutes of the various committees, I find that the Racket Sports Advisory Committee minutes, item number 7A.4 of 10/9/23, to be inaccurate, as I did attend this meeting. I suggest that you refuse these minutes and return them to the committee for correction. As a government agency, the meeting minutes should be accurate as they are an extension of your elected authority. He also adds, please provide an update for the ongoing landscaping issue behind the homes along Treviso Court and Valencia Courts. That's his statement. I have a question about the ice machine at the tennis courts and where that falls. Supervision, it's a leased machine. It hasn't been working correctly for 3 weeks. Jill, does that fall under facilities?
Boy, that's a good question.
It's a lease machine.
Yeah, it's a lease
It's a
machine.
lease
So
machine.
Probably not.
Who is responsible
That's
for?
The leasing
Andrew?
company.
So we bring
And
our
I've spoken-
concerns to you, Andrew?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because apparently it's been serviced.
It was
It
serviced, they
still
had it
wasn't
up and
working
running,
Saturday.
and then it went down again. There's another part needed. We spoke to the guy, myself and Mouse, called him, and he says it should be in Monday, which is today, the part, and will be out as soon as it comes in, so.
As you know, there was no ice for the accident. I know you're all aware of where a lady fell and was severely injured. So it is an important part of the tennis
Sure.
facility. So we take it to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Darlene Schimber.
I know, I'm sure.
Good morning, everybody. First, I would like to thank Andrew, Therese, Heather, and Chef Brian, and all the staff for putting on the First Ladies Luncheon Toys for Tots. This was a wonderful event and went off flawless. This was followed up by our holiday dinner dance, for which I again heard nothing but compliments from residents that I have spoken to. We have a team that has learned to compliment one another, and that is something we have not had in a while. Kudos to Yvonne for the magnificent centerpieces on the tables and in the bar. This was a lot of work, but well worth it. Based on some of the comments made at the last CDD meeting, I'd like to recommend that we might have term limits on the liaisons attached to committees. I know that this might have been suggested before, but nothing has really been done about it. And maybe it's time to take a serious look at that just based on recent actions and accusations. I want to let you know that I know I have commented on tennis before, so I did a little bit of work on my own. And in 2 weeks, I found that the person in charge of our tennis area, who we pay $65,000 a year, and who gets all the proceeds from his private lessons, was only here an average of 20 to 22 hours per week. I am not sure how any of this board can justify this type of behavior, but I know as an employer, I would not tolerate it. I witnessed several residents coming into the POA office asking for someone for tennis, only to be told that there was no one there. Needless to say, the residents were not happy. It is not up to our property management team to answer for the tennis pro who is a contract employee. I am tired of the excuses made and the liberties that he is allowed. I know this contract is coming up, and I hope that this board can see that we should not renew the contract for Tennis Connection or modify it drastically if we do, for any reason, renew it. Also, there are some River Club employees who are under the impression they work for Dave. I don't understand that. If they are not being paid by Dave, they work for Andrew and Therese and should do what they are asked. Any employee who says something is not in their job description should not be an employee of our club. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly.
Thank you. There being no further speakers signed in, we're going to close out public comment at this time and move forward with our agenda. We're going to move into staff reports. John, good morning.
Good morning. Morning, John. So I'm going to go over landscape inspection that I performed with LMP October 30th. I have completed one after that. I usually do it the last day of the month to give them time to complete a full month service, so we have an idea. But to get it into this agenda was too quick, so just gonna go over the one I did October 30th. Main highlights here is if you look on the very last page, and it was part of a public comment as well. I asked them to provide a couple proposals that I think have gotten kind of lost in the shuffle that I think need to be attended to. They are on the berm, on Medici Berm, there's several pine trees that are dead there. There's a couple of Washingtonians dead on the berm on Laurel Road right before you get to Benito. The west end of the community, where there's the emergency exit, there are a couple trees that are leaning really bad, and I believe there's one that's dead. And then the last one, I believe there's a photo of number 23. There's some ligustrum trees that are basically laying on top of shrubs there. I really focused on all these because I really do think these could be liability just because how they're laying, and if anybody happens to walk around there with dogs or whatever, that something could happen. So that was one thing that I asked them to reproduce. I think they have done that in the past, but just looking at that for more consideration. Number 17, as you come into the community on the medians, there were some bougainvillea trees that were removed that always fell down, which I think is a good idea. But a couple of the areas, there are some depressions where that sod settled. So I just want to make sure, since that's the interest of the community, make sure we get that leveled out with dirt. Another thing that I want to make sure is I brought to his attention is if you're walking down the sidewalk, there's a little bit of overspray. If you see where they spray crackweeds, which I commend them for spraying crackweeds, but a little bit got to the grass, whether it's a windy day or not. So just making sure we're being cognizant of that. And then also the trees, they're starting to have dead fronds again, which is typical for this time of year, and brought that to their attention. And they said they will have that scheduled relatively shortly. And then that concludes this. And then if you'd like, I'd like to go into the Balanza area concern as well.
Yeah, please.
So end of October, I took it upon myself to meet with a couple homeowners on Balanza with the representative of LMP. Didn't say much, just went in their backyard, took a bunch of pictures, listened to their concerns. After listening to his concerns, I said the very thing that we need to do is get Mr. Schoppeker out there with some blueprints and define the areas. So we did that. A week later, myself, Mr. Schoppeker, and another LMP came out, a representative. We brought the blueprints, which I have here. We measured, got measuring tape from where the sidewalk is to the back of the yard. And the results of that is where the wetlands start is not even close to where the ornamental grasses currently are at. So those ornamental grasses are actually considered in the wetland. So it's something that specifically we're not even technically allowed to touch. You're really only supposed to take invasive species out of there. So if you went to his backyard, it's about halfway down the slope is where it was measured to, and there's about 5 to 7 feet to where those ornamental grasses are. My suggestion to you as a board to help solve this issue is get some wetland signs so you can define the area. So there's no question that when they look out their backyard, that's the area that we're not supposed to go any further into. And then the only other suggestion I would make is perhaps removing one row of the ornamental grasses, kind of like you guys been doing around the lakes, where there's a definite definition between the grass and the wetlands, so there's no confusion there as well.
So what you're saying, John, is that that area is something that we cannot touch.
Yes.
And though it is a concern for the homeowner, and I understand that, our hands are tied.
By law, yes.
Okay.
With SWIFT, I guess.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, John.
Yep.
I have a question. I think you said I'm wrong, that the ornamental grasses are definitely in the wetlands.
Yes.
So how can we take out a row of ornamental grasses if we're not supposed to touch it? I'm just confused.
I just bring it to you as a suggestion. Maybe you
Okay.
can, maybe you can't. I'm just trying to resolve
They were planted before, so they can be taken out.
Okay,
they're not natural to that area.
Would that solve part of the issue?
I mean, I don't know if that will ever solve the issue because when you're looking back there, I understand that there's shrub growth and growth that's gonna grow up that looks ugly. So it's never gonna look like a pristine, which is, I think, what they're looking for. And I also found out that people on that street probably put in ornamental grasses further into there, which was not originally put there.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right, so the only thing that we could do is remove those grasses, but other than that, we can't touch anything.
Yes, and I wouldn't even remove a lot of them, to be honest with you, because they go way out in there. I would just remove the front line, so there's a definite distinguished area between the turf that's currently there and not, because right now the turf goes right to the ornamental grasses, and there's no real definition.
Are those grasses holding back the soil?
It helps, yes, but there's a lot of other stuff right there as
Oh,
well.
okay.
So there's ornamental grasses behind that too.
Okay.
So it just kind of gives you a little more definition. And you don't have to do anything. I'm just trying to appease everybody.
Okay, no, I understand.
But I think the signs would be your best thing where people can go out and say, okay, there it is. And I also have pictures that I can send where we spray painted where it's at based on this. So I can share that with you guys and you can see it.
Okay. All right. Well, I thank you for going out there and Rick as well at LMP to take a look at this.
No problem.
Appreciate that.
Hey, John, I wanted to ask, may I borrow this? I wanted to ask about the bougainvilleas against the monuments at the front. It looks like something is eating them up.
Okay, I'll have to go look at that again.
Yeah, they look like, I know because I'm recognizing it on my own bougainvilleas at home. I also wanted to ask just quickly, when I noticed, and I don't know why I never noticed this before, but like if something needs to be put in, let's say a ligustrum dye, we go to LMP. Is there ever a time or a threshold where we say, oh, it's reached the level of X, we're gonna get the proposal from more than one vendor, or do we always just go to LMP?
That's up to you guys. I've seen it both ways.
Okay.
That's just development of relationship between you and them.
I see.
But yes, there are places that have threshold, whatever the number is, whether it's 500, 5,000,
I see.
that a board adopts, and anything above that, they do go outside for a second opinion. So,
That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. John, a couple of years ago, during Hurricane Ian, we lost some trees on Passero by the lake, across from where we proposed to put the back gate. Is there anything we can do to replace those trees? The people lost the beauty they used to have, and it just affects probably their property values as a result of this loss, and we haven't done anything.
yeah, I mean, what I would say is that you guys lost a lot here, including if you look out the front of the River Club. So I don't know what steps you want to go to start replacing some of this material, but it's not just there. There are quite a few areas throughout the property, and I think it's just maybe a big thing that we start making out one at a time, but that's up to you guys.
actually, that's one of the things that Landscape Committee is working on. They're working through step by step, which is why we have the bid today, so we can finish up getting the work done to clean up Veneto. Then we have Passaro is kind of coming up next for what, because then we get into the big issue. Once we do the cleanup, the big issue is there's a lot of trees that went down. And so we are going to rely on John to help as well as LMP. And in some areas, we may even need an architect when they're really big areas. And so that is the next step for Landscape Committee. But thank you, Ernest.
As Lee said.
Cheryl, I was going to bring this up either under supervisor comments or a couple of subjects that are coming up. Is there a set of priorities that the landscape committee has set as, these are the ones we're gonna, can we see that like an overall plan approach so we know what's coming up and when? And rather than have the committee do a lot of work and then this group come back and say, gee, you ought to do this, you ought to get more bids, you ought to do that. We can get a kind of a broader picture of what you're considering. I know I was planning to bring up, because of the rear exit becoming a two-way likelihood, that whole area along Siltadella to become some kind of priority, because we're gonna get more traffic, we're gonna get headlights, we're gonna more noise for the people that live along on that end of Savona. And then also along Laurel from Jacaranda south, east, whatever it is, towards the park. That area, which is not going to be widened, can we be starting to do some things to, again, buffer that and add some security of areas that are wide open now? So again, if we can see like an overall plan, that would help.
Yes, and actually, the committee's been working off the priority list that I presented when we did the assessment. If you remember, we had, I think, 10 priorities. That's kind of what we're working through. We've had to move some stuff because, for instance, Siltadella, we moved waiting to figure out what's gonna happen with the gate. Is it ingress, egress? We also have moved Laurel Road, waiting, I think probably within the next 4 to 6 months, we're gonna know exactly what's gonna happen there. And so we'll have a better idea and be able to bring in an architect to help us with. We're also waiting on the fence to be repaired, so that we kind of have a starting point, but I agree with you. And so what we can do at next landscape committee is redo the priority list based on what we know today and bring that back here with some
That'd be great.
timelines.
Thanks. Also, I noticed this morning that the city of Venice is going to start replacing trees in the downtown area. There was some discussion about maybe some things along Lower Road. Maybe that could be starting because they are beginning to replant down in there.
And that's one reason that we haven't really started to see how far they're gonna go down and what they're actually going to do.
Any other questions for John?
Before we move on, supervisors, I don't think we were clear on the direction for LMP regarding the grasses. Do we want LMP to provide a proposal to remove the first row of the grasses?
I think so.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that.
Yeah.
Chris? Okay. Any other questions for John? Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. You want to talk about the proposal that we have?
Yes.
Cheryl?
All right, so at the last meeting, I presented what you have on the top sheet of this, which is a total of $103,323.20 to do all the cleanup work along Veneto, whatever you want to call it. And that includes sod all the way out to the buffer areas and replacing a lot of the mulch. It also includes the viburnum. So we're going to reinforce all the viburnum along the houses and along the edges there so that gets a cleaned up and nice look. I was asked at that time to provide, we had a proposal from Troy's Tropics, which we knew was higher, but we were asked to provide a apples to apples. We went to Troy's and gave them the exact square footage so we could get an apples to apples. Their bid came in at $146,647. So it is significantly higher. So at this time, I'm asking for approval to move forward with LMP at the $103,323 to get that work started.
You want a motion? I move.
I'll second it.
I'm not seeing how we get to, where's the LMP estimate? I've got yours.
It's the top sheet.
Oh, right in front of me.
What I did is I
I
squished the
just went right down
paper.
there.
I squished the paper so that it
Okay.
wasn't two sheets anymore because I've copied it so
More
many
coffee
times.
units. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, the total is 103.
When can this start? Do you have an idea?
We are actually in queue. The first proposal that was approved for the pitch apples here in the parking lot will start within a week to 10 days. And then we have this will start within January. This will start in January, and then at the same time, we approved the hedges the bushes along the green electrical boxes to cover those up. That'll be happening at the same time that this Veneto work is going on.
I've got a question though. The estimate is from June. 6 months old.
And LNP has indicated in our meetings that they would continue to honor this estimate.
Maybe is it lower?
I doubt it.
No, we verified costs. I mean, right now, especially in the south, viburnum are going through a fungus issue. And so the availability of them, so we've had another nursery in the north. I had 3 nurseries that we were utilizing for that project. So sod-wise, we're good. The viburnum was in question, but we did verify that everything is fine.
When you say north, you're talking about north in the state, right?
Yes,
Okay.
not in the snow.
And just for the reliability of the plant, you know?
Yeah.
As opposed to what grows.
Exactly. Viburnum can go all the way to Jacksonville and a little beyond that. So there's nurseries all over the state for that variety of plant.
Okay.
If Belinda correctly pointed out that it has the 1-year warranty, but as we've had to change in the past, the warranty is for the life of your service and your property, so we'll need to revise that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Irrigation, just so you're aware, will follow as we go through that process.
Okay.
We're also gonna have a significant savings in mulch. Once the grass is able to get put down and then we're taking out those big mulch bits. So we're gonna have a significant savings in mulch as well.
What's the timeline for the workers?
This week, we're starting the project in the parking lot with the removal. Next week, hopefully getting the plants, if not by the end of this week. And then in January, given the signed proposals, we'll start the ordering of the viburnum and the scheduling of the sod. So January would be the date for those 2 estimates as they were just approved. So we can't do any pre-orders.
And Keith, does the mulch, because the mulch is coming sooner, right?
No, I've put them off until we get this done, because I'm not gonna put mulch down and then, 3 weeks later, a month later, have it, a significant part of it removed. So it's just, to me, it's a waste, so I told them to hang on.
Okay. So that 50, whatever thousand that we had,
Yeah, I already did the contract.
we're waiting on.
So it's
Okay.
ready.
Didn't the mulch contract, wasn't that already reduced to factor that in, the quantity?
No, not when you all approved it.
No, we said we would reduce it, I think, should.
It is gonna,
I thought it had been.
No, the price that you all approved was what's out there right now. All right, and then when we decided to put this on hold until we got, then I went back and said, okay, here is what we need from you minus, because we're gonna be having grass rather than mulch. And he went out and redid it and came back with a different number.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded. Can we call it?
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're gonna move forward with staff reports. Rick, do you have anything to report?
Yeah, the pickleball status, the update. We were moving along so well, so fast, everything's going great, and then the issues. I know everybody drive up and by there can see that, with just all of this, it's a sudden, it's like we hit a brick wall out there. I've been dealing with the contractor with ASAP, and I have been hounding him. The ASAP signed the contract in June 22nd with a start date of August 7th. And the total completion time was 45 days. We did have a few delays when we started the project. The asphalt for the courts was poured on September 19th. Coordinated with the contractor, he said he's going to be in there the following Monday, September 25th. So if I push his start date back to September 25th and 45 in the days, his completion date should have been November 7th. The contract calls for liquidated damages of $100 per day. I've been hounding him and hounding him and hounding him. When they signed the contract in August, I said, did you order the panels? Because I know that's a long lead, the item, and I hounded him multiple times. And I was trying to just get him to confirm, yes, we ordered it, but he never really said yes. So it appears to me what happened is he just didn't place the order. He did get back and confirm it's a 3-week delivery time. I says, make sure you place the order. That was probably September. Then for week after week after week, he would always tell me it's going to be done by the end of the week, by the end of the week, by the end of the week. We just weren't getting anywhere with him. So we reached out to the president of the company, and I went to voicemail, but I left a very detailed message of how disappointed we are, how frustrated we are by being lied to by their representative just over and over again. I fully expected a call back from him. If you're the president of the company and you get a message like I left, I would have expected that. Never got that. Got a call back from a scheduler who said it'll be done in 2 weeks. Well, that didn't happen. Finally, we got back, I guess the president of the company talked to the guy. He come back and said, there's a 7-week delivery time. The next production run is going to be January 15th when they produce the next batch. So that's telling me we're probably talking February before we can get this in. So we reached out, and Mr. Booker helped out. We reached out and trying to find other vendors. We found the vendor that originally quoted this back with Jack Wilson back in 2019. We both spoke with the guy. He's at home with COVID, working from home, trying to help us out. Back at that time, the price that we got from Jack was somewhere around $8,000 or $9,000. Well, the price he gave us last week is it's going to be $18,771.60. That does not include the installation. The contract with ASAP was a total $35,366. That contract included 50% deposit to order materials. Then he gets paid the rest upon completion. So we're holding at $17,683. Our initial hopes were that we would have enough left in there that we could reach out, find somebody else. I talked to Andy about terminating the contract if we could find somebody else to use the money. Andy felt that we should be able to do that. So, but now with the price that came in, it's higher than what we've got. And his time, he said, once we place the order, it's 30 days to get it delivered. Now, he may be able to push on it a little bit, but knowing we're in holidays, I'm anticipating 30 days. So now we're talking mid-January. And so I'm just, it's so frustrating for me to see that. When they were putting that fence up, I was standing there with Sandy, and we're watching him roll out that 10-foot piece, and knowing fences typically come in 50-foot the rolls, that west leg is 64 feet, and we looked around, there was no other 10-foot fence lying out there. And I says, what's the odds that's a 50-foot piece of fence and rolls it out as he's putting it up, and he's 14 feet off. So I went over to him and he told me, he says, yeah, they're gonna deliver that today. That was 2 months ago. And I've been bugging him. I said, just please get the fence done. He was trying to wait to send the installers back out to install the rest of the fence with the sound panels. Coming to find out that ASAP reaches out to installers to do their work. So they're not employees of the AP. So it appears to me that early on, the installers run their projects. So like I said, it's been so frustrating. And so I'm kind of, I just wanted to share with you where we're at with everything. And I'm not really sure where we go.
Andy, what about the $100 a day delay? That's enforceable.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm doing numbers in my head. It seems like a lot of money that they're gonna be liable for.
Well,
We have a couple of remedies.
yeah, Andy and I have been talking extensively about that.
I'm a little confused, Rick. Because I know that ASP, the acoustical panel vendor is a subcontractor of ASAP, is that right?
ASAP,
They contracted
reached
for
out
the
to
panels
get
and the fencing.
panels. Correct.
Because we were getting the panels through them.
Yes.
So both the fencing and the panels
Was
are
through them
in,
in the contract.
out in Jupiter or something. Because, so we're gonna have to not only pay to get panels now, but we're gonna have to get the fence finished, presumably by somebody else. So what's the net?
He told me he will send the installer back out to finish the fence. And I talked to him early last week and he said he'll have it done by the end of the week. It's not done, but I can reach back out to him and just push to get that done. I don't know, I mean, it's so easy, it's a standard thing. If it was something not standard, I could understand a little delay, but a 10-foot vinyl fence is a very standard product.
I mean, we have a provision in the contract that says on a default by the contractor, the district may terminate the contract immediately or elect not to terminate the contract, and in such event, it may make good the deficiency in which the default consists and deduct the cost from the payment then or to become due the contractor. So I think that we can go and get the sound panel. And then if it's less, which doesn't sound like it's going to be, than what we're holding, then we'll deduct it from that. And if it's more than what we're holding, then we'll invoice them for the difference, together with the liquidated damages that are continuing to accrue.
Okay.
How much have we paid him?
According to Rick, we've paid him, what, 17,683?
50%.
50%. The total contract was 35,366.
Okay, so there's another 17, 18,000 we haven't paid.
Correct.
Okay, a few things. We may have a mediation required. If we were to sue.
If we were to sue.
Then we would have to go into mediation. That would cost money as well as extend the time. We could make a claim against the liquidated damages, which are sufficient, but nowhere near enough to make us whole.
Just don't pay the rest of it.
No, of course we have, but we have to do something today. Okay, like I said to council, I'm not interested in pointing fingers. I'm interested in trying to rectify this thing and correct it. And we can do it probably, Andy and I, so, well, I can't work for you, but legally, I used to litigate. Yeah, I did construction litigation for cities before, but $127. So before we can do anything, we have to make a determination today what we plan on doing? Do we want to call in the litigation of the liquidated damages portion? Do we want to mediate, or do we want to file a lawsuit?
I think we want to, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we want to get the other panel.
Right.
Now that we've located it, get it here, install, figure out what our damages are. Are we short $1,000, $800, $2,000, or whatever, and then make a demand for the difference as well as the liquidated damages. In the meantime, and I'll take your input in Ernest, but in the meantime, I think we should also get a demand to tell them what we're doing, that we're going to order the panel, we are imposing the liquidated damages, they continue to accrue.
We have to serve notice.
Yes.
Okay, now this, what was interesting is, I started calling around Tuesday or so, and that's my back, I called around the country. Then I could see there's a location in Tampa. And I call this Tampa company. So the guy answers and he says, hey, you must be from the Northeast area. I'm from that area. So he starts talking to me. He says, well, where's your location? Where's your community? And I said, Venetian. He responds, how is my buddy Jack Wilson? Now, is that unbelievable? He knew Jack. He said, oh, Jack and I go back some nine years ago or 8 years ago. How's he coming with this project? I said, that's why I'm calling you. But we may have found someone that's God sent for us for this project. Okay, so now, well, we should, if they are the right panels, okay? And, I invited them to come here and look at it today, to examine and do the specs, so we'll see.
Okay, I think Andy's given us a,
So I think I'll just work with Ernest and we'll proceed accordingly.
the goal is to get it done. And then, let's get it done, and then we'll deal with the legal aspects of it at
Right,
that time.
because obviously, if we find out that we're made whole except for $100, I'm making this up, then we're gonna be like, let it go. But if we're made whole except for like $20,000, we're gonna start talking about it.
Right, okay. So I think we're all in agreement on that. We want to get the project completed, and we'll deal with the legal ramifications as necessary.
The one question I have is, Rick, do you want them to even come back out and fix a little bit of fence that's missing? I think we should just have another vendor do that, but I defer to you.
Just a little more info. When we were talking to the vendor from Tampa, that was the fence that we specified. So my plans included that fence or equal. When the original discussions with ASAP, their bid for the sound panel was $11,220. So when I was confirming that he ordered materials, he said, I went back to them and their price jumped considerably. So he looked around, he found a company in Georgia, Pack Global. I told him, I says, as long as it's or equal, I'm okay with that. I mean, that's what we do quite a bit. He said they told him that the soundproofing material exceeds what I had in my specification. I said, great, send me the literature. I've never gotten the literature. But last week on Wednesday, when he finally forwarded me the email from Pack Global, we found out who the company is. I researched them. They're basically an agricultural fencing company. Now they do, when you look at their website, it does talk about sound, but it's more, I mean, they showed a picture of the backhoe. So it's a sound to keep the construction noise. So, there's a good possibility it does the same, but I don't have the literature on that. And Charles O'Meara is the rep from Acoustafence. Charles did say, well, if they reach back out to us, that price did go up. But I don't know if that's who he reached out to originally, because, I mean, he just trying to get him to be responsive is very, very, very tough.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, Rick, I'll work with you and Ernest, and we'll find the acoustical panel that meets your specs, and we'll get it,
Okay,
So,
however long it takes.
one question to you, Rick. Do you want these people coming back here doing anything?
I don't think they should.
No, so we need to send a termination notice or something, you'll take care of that.
I'll put them on notice
Okay.
as to what we're doing.
okay.
That we're
Yes.
exercising our rights under the contract to get it from other sources, and we're gonna hold them liable for the difference as well as the liquidated damages.
That's it.
Okay.
The installation guys that did come out, I think they did a pretty good job. I mean, everything's straight, square. And so my problem is more dealing with the representative and really not the installation guys. So I guess one question that I have is, should I reach out to the guy today, right after the meeting, tell him what we talked about, tell him we're gonna go to somebody else and see if he can
Finish the fence,
finish it up and maybe, I don't know.
if you're comfortable with them. I mean, we need to get somebody, and I
I'm
don't know
not,
if we
I'm
should
not
use state
comfortable with the
statute.
rep.
Then why don't we have Andy deal with this?
I think,
And again, the goal is, let's get it done.
give them the week. If you can get it done this
That-
week,
that's
good.
fine.
If you can't, move on.
That's
Well,
fine.
he won't get the panels done, but the fence
The fence.
completion.
I'm talking about the fencing.
So I'll reach out to him and say,
Last
I was
chance.
down here, well, the fence is not completed, you told me it was going to be done, when is that fence going to be completed? So that's what I'll say to him.
Was he the guy who was gonna install the acoustical panels?
That they would hire the installers to do that. Now, talking to Charles O'Meara, he said they're really not hard to install. He said, we got a little video, we could, we could send you that. It's really not hard to install that. But I don't know if Keith would want to have his guys attack that or not, but,
Well, we can deal with that
Yeah,
offline.
we can
We
deal
don't
with
need
that.
the board.
Let's get the issue taken care of.
Right.
With the understanding, we want to get this thing up and running. So, Andy's on it, Ernest is on it, you're on it, and let's move from there.
The dream team will get it done.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we're gonna have to move.
okay, other than that, I really didn't have much else, unless anybody's got anything else for me.
I do have a question. The blacktop work that's supposed to be done on those manhole covers, been months. What's going on with that?
What happened to that is the vendor that we've used a lot, he had, the asked to do is come out and just basically do that on his own. So I was hoping you would, when they tell me they finished it, because he
No.
told me he was going to come back
No,
out
it's
with
not
his guys. So I will reach back out to him. But he had a falling out with that company that he utilized.
Thank you.
It's not a good idea to have a falling out with an asphalt company. I don't think.
And Rick, you're gonna update the paving phases for the reserve study?
Yes. Yeah, that, the areas that we identified as red, those are the ones that, talking to Jerry, the money is gonna be set aside in this fiscal year coming up. So we'll take care of, there's like 3 areas there.
Okay, but we need ongoing as well.
Yeah, the rest of that should be pretty accurate on the reserve studies. But working with Jerry, that first monies that was available is in this fiscal year coming up.
Any other questions for Rick?
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Andy, do you have anything to report?
I don't have anything additional. I'll have some input on some of these agenda items, but I'm glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Andy? Andrew, do you have anything to report?
There's quite a bit. You're coming back to the other items, correct, down below? Yeah, I'm just gonna go over where we stood for the most recent, previous month, I should say, October.
microphone, Andrew?
Sure. Thank you. Test. Okay, going over the summary report, month to date, October. Overall, this is the CDD. Overall revenue, 202,722, or 772. We were, versus budget, we were negative 19,380. Versus previous year, we were negative $2,608. Moving down to net profit, we were positive 20,514 versus budget, positive 18,227 versus previous year, 14,524. So not too bad, going up with softer sales. Moving on down to food and beverage. Overall revenue was at 47,301 versus budget of 72,675. Major difference of negative 25,374, and versus previous year, negative difference of 21,469. Major difference across the board on the top line revenue. Net profit, we were negative 30,548 actual to budget, negative 40,204. Which was better than budget, negative 95 or 96.56. Prior year, we were negative 30,086, so we had a variance of negative 462. So we did our best, and results were not bad. As we move through the cost of goods, month-to-date actual cost of goods, food 49.30. Versus budget, 45%. Versus last year, 43.3. So food is coming down, but obviously not at the pace that the numbers show on budget or last year. As we move on, year to date, same numbers. And month to date, beverage was at 22.85. Month-to-date budget was 31.20, and month-to-date actual cost of goods beverage was 38.33. So we've made major gains in the beverage end of the business. Year-to-date, the same. The counts are coming up on the covers. They're improved, but we still have opportunity there to challenge ourselves to continue to grow and increase the revenue from our neighborhood with whatever we have to do to get those folks in. Moving on to events.
Andrew, before you move on there, can we see year-to-year comparisons of the covers?
We can.
I don't have
there, but
no, but we have that.
Yeah,
because that's something that we ought to. It'd be good to see on an ongoing basis, kind of year-to-date basis.
Previous year.
I know you weren't here, but any discussion among yourselves as to why we were so far below last October?
Well, I believe the more and more I looked at the numbers, there's no doubt in my mind that there's banquet sales tied into those numbers still. And they're going to be kind of flawed if you're looking at the previous year, because let's don't fool ourselves. You build business over a year and a half, 2 years to get where you needed to be, and then the faucet was shut off. So here we are, even though we're opening the door to banquets, it's going to be a process.
Yeah.
So labor, let me see, where's the labor at? Well, some of the opportunities, again, Chef Brian and team, they continue to do some great things. At the same time, there's always opportunity and with portion control, production, overproduction for events. And we continue to look at that situation and do what we got to do to lessen the burden. But when you have, well, when you're holding up and letting that number run, and we don't know, we know sometimes they're letting those numbers run up to the last day, and we're guessing what we're going to have. It becomes a challenge. So we're going to have to definitely look at that and shut that number off a week before, so we have a much more accurate number going into a banquet. Trees and team definitely bounce back in the beverage end. Again, we're growing staff. As you can see, there's more bodies at the same time. We're still short, but people are gaining knowledge and getting better as they go. Most recent week's events have told you that as we move forward. So feel good about that. I just hope our goal is obviously to continue to grow and people get trained further as we continue to grow there. Where are we at here? Salaries, wages, actual was 45,129, 32.1% versus budget, 66.45 or 454. It was a negative 21, 325 budget. And the same thing was year to date. We've come way down on budget in October. We didn't use any temp labor at all. There were some big numbers from the previous year, but that's not going to be the case as we move forward, because if there's more and more events, even though we're growing staff, we're always going to have a need temp labor out there for events. So as we found that out during Thanksgiving, and November was a much more challenging month when it came to labor. Other areas, maintenance, annual contracts, we got to get signed for Vets Air. We got an expense on a unit that froze up, 2-pole connector. And we just had another unit, it's not on here. It's feeding the men's locker room. That unit also has about $2,000, the bill is about $2,000. We haven't done it yet. And that is because it's the oldest unit on the roof. And to replace it is like $10,000 some odd dollars. So you have a question, Jay?
Yeah, I was just, I'm gonna borrow this. I think one question I might have on that you won't know probably right now, but the question will be, I don't know what the number is in the reserve study about when that needs to be replaced, and facilities is looking at this, but the question is, are we going to have to look at the timing of replacing any of the AC units? I think it's something we've talked to Miles about when he's been in the meeting, but maybe we have to think about that as Ken's committee works through the reserves.
I'll pass this around. This is replacement and the cost of repair. But I agree, if you have a unit, it's that old, then it's probably best to just go ahead and replace.
Didn't we defer that? There were some things, a couple of things scheduled to be replaced last year that I don't think was ever done. Why don't you keep
No
going?
problem. Events, upcoming events, Toys for Tots was an outstanding event, holiday dinner, went well. We got Santa's brunch coming up, and obviously New Year's Eve. Other new events that we've added, Soupapalooza, which is a multi-salad bar with 6 different soup options. We have an outside event, Tiki Under the Stars with Generation Gap. And then we got a pasta dinner, Mother's House dinner event coming up. We have another live concert, weather permitting, live stream Bon Jovi, missing again. Then an Asian buffet event after that.
How you doing on New Year's Eve?
Good, well, it's over 100.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll sell it.
What'd you cut off?
150. Yeah, we've, 150 seems to be the market, the facility to have appropriate room and is able to execute and serve everybody in a timely manner. 150 is our markup. If it rolls over a couple people, it's not an issue, but.
It's $50 less than last year, so
That's correct.
I think it should fill up.
There's no doubt. I haven't got an updated number, but it could be sold out for close to it now.
I have a question on New Year's Eve. What kind of rumors are out there regarding the band? The cost of the band?
Cost of the band, yes.
What is it?
The total cost of the band, I think is like $5,500.
That was a contract that was signed last year, right?
Oh, the updated number is 120.
It's 120.
Right.
Okay, so.
But the band, yes, correct. That was because, I guess at the time, you either rebook them then or you can't book them at all.
Yep. Let's do it's the hottest night of the year.
It's a tough time of year, and live music is very expensive, and but with a full house at 150 people, we should do just fine with that.
I agree. I think it'll be a different experience this year. Not saying you're gonna put money on the bottom line, but it'll be a much better event.
We don't lose too much.
The band was great, so.
Good. Well, we hope that it's tough when the band costs majority of the funds. It becomes a challenge. And I just had notes here, just upcoming, reviewing things on the budget and so forth. There's no doubt in my mind that something wasn't looked at when it comes to accuracy with banquets from the previous year. And it's going to be an uphill climb every month when it comes to top line revenue, period. And we are going to do our best to try to grow and build upon, but it's not going to happen overnight. And end result is that's just going to be a challenge for this budget.
Do we have the amount that was spent on outside events by month from last year? Is that something that's available?
Well, there's a number in there. It says events, this much and this, but we also put our dinners right now, they're under events, but it's broken down differently now. So I don't know if everyday events, the only thing I can look at is these big checks, amounts of money that went in on certain events, and there had to be a wedding or something because there was a large deposit, whatever the case might be. Even this week, we had a very successful week with all the events sold out pretty much. And it didn't matter because something was going on this week last year also. And it wasn't these events, it was weddings, stuff like that, so.
There was a Toys for Tots luncheon last.
Yes, there was. Some of it was correct, but when it comes to the other business, and I gotta be honest, the other opportunity is check average. The check average is down from the previous year, there's no doubt, because of the menu change. It was a drastic menu change. And thinking that you would build more volume to meet the expectation. That opportunity hasn't happened yet, as well noted. I mean, that's an area that we have to do a better job of getting them in here. But I think through the word of mouth that it's going out there now, that's going to be a big deal. I've been advertising the menu in the monthly newsletter, so just to get the menu out there so they understand it's not going to cost them an arm and a leg to come up here.
It's too cheap.
Well, you got great points, but here we go. Are we going back to that again?
Without getting into detail, it just seems like the quality of the food and service is so much better than a year ago that we ought to figure out a way to have a campaign, advertising campaign to residents saying, if you haven't been here in the last year, try it again. because it's so much better. And then word of mouth will get out there.
Right, and we're trying to push those avenues, and we'll look at other options to get that word out. But those are definitely a challenge, because last year, it's on high ticket averages, so it's a big difference.
Offering takeout at Thanksgiving. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
That's gonna work every time.
That told us that that's an area of opportunity. And as we continue to build staff and have appropriate people on, because the last thing you want to do is put something out there, push marketing and everything, and oops, we didn't know the kitchen was going to get murdered with to-goes at the same time as serving a big dinner in here.
Right.
You know, so that's what we have to look at, and whether it's a different menu, you know, a streamlined menu or so forth. But those are opportunities we have to continue to work on.
Sure.
And we'll get it, but we'll definitely build on those things. Again, labor cost, another opportunity. I saw the temp labor numbers last year, as I see them each month. And then I look at the budgeted number, it's okay. It just, gotta shake your head. You had $12,000 in temp labor and you had $500 in your budget. I'm unsure, you know, even though we did well in October, that's not gonna happen every month. And those opportunities are gonna be there, and we have to, we're definitely, our goal is squeeze as best we can at the same time. We're not gonna hurt service.
Can I ask a question on that? I'm wondering, and I come through the club a lot, but does it cost us extra to staff for lunch, both this dining room and outside? Is that costing us? Is there added labor because of lunch in the dining room?
Not necessarily,
There isn't, okay.
not at the numbers they're at, no. It's more event driven.
Okay.
Event driven, and you're in the week when a lot of things happen. That's when you're calling people in or don't want you gotta get beat coverage. I even had a person, we had to call in to do coverage at the poll at $30 an hour, just to have someone stand out there. I mean,
service.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, not service.
Talking food or?
No, this is for just coverage, straightening out chairs and
Oh, yeah.
doing stuff like that, because we're still challenged with that weekend coverage. So those are, you know, that all goes into the plan financially. It's
The beverage cost of sales is very, very low. Is that an anomaly? Is it?
no, I think there's a couple things.
I just want to say one thing. This has been something that we've been looking at for a year and that I have been harping on because it drives me crazy. That's actually where you should have profit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I am thrilled. That was going to be my comment.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely thrilled that you finally got cost of sales on beverage down to something more reasonable. And it's the jiggers.
That the
Pretty sure
jiggers
that's part
are
of it.
definitely crunching, and also the wine.
Get a wine.
They're in love with the house wine. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you're making a much more profit on the house wine than you are on the high-end wines.
Well, I noticed in the financials selling a lot more beer in the month of October than the prior year, and maybe that's an anomaly. Again, I don't know.
Yeah, that really hasn't changed a whole lot. The selection has.
I see. Okay.
But other than that, that's that.
Are you varying the selection on the beer?
We did this recently, we made some changes, yes.
Well, you know, that could answer it, because as you put different items available, either on tap or whatever,
Right.
it's gonna draw people in.
I even threw a tap in here for Oktoberfest. Sold the whole
For sure.
keg of Oktoberfest beer. And it was a great upsell because we were getting $7 a draft. So it was, it tells you something.
Andrew?
Yes.
And check my numbers, I was mistaken on the New Year's Eve, we're only at 95, we're at 152 for Santa brunch, We're sold out on
I
that.
apologize on the New
For
Year's
New
Eve.
Year's Eve, we are at
We're-
$100 per ticket. We are at 95 right now, but I'm certain that we will sell out on that.
I'm sure you will sell
Yeah.
$100.
That's like the last week rush, last couple of weeks rush, so yes. After these events, you'll start seeing people plug away at that. Again, I have to look at food costs too, 45% cost. Is that realistic? We're trying. We definitely made some menu changes.
Raised the price.
Yeah, that's where that comes down to.
You can't go anywhere around here.
No, you're right.
$19 for an entree.
Mhm. So that's where that's at. That's the only thing that's gonna change on that. And, well, and the other thing is I told him as you look at your food mix, look at items that aren't selling as well. And we put a little bit higher ticketed item in there to replace it. And we go from there, so to get the mix a little bit better. And that's kind of all I have for that.
Any other questions for Andrew?
I have one. I just one other quick comment because I haven't been able to do this in a while, but I have been here, I've eaten here about 8 times since the last board meeting. And every time, food has been fantastic, service has been fantastic. I mean, I think, 8 times in a month and it has been wonderful. So we are now bringing people up saying, rather than come to our house for dinner, why don't we go meet at the club and have dinner? And I think that's really important to do to keep using the facility. But I just kudos, congratulations to everybody, Brian, Therese, you. I mean, it's been wonderful.
I would just tack on to what Cheryl said. I've used the takeout a couple times. I'm not sure how many people know it's possible.
Yes.
But in fact, when I knew I was going out of town, I just got my husband a load of food and stuck it in the refrigerator. I just wanted to shift gears quickly, just to something other than F&B. I wanted to ask on you're familiar with the incident, the accident on the tennis courts.
The lady in Bell at wrist.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask, I know it's a staffing issue, but, as a tennis player myself, it's a general expectation that, if the courts are here first thing in the morning, that the club is open. And I wonder, you don't expect if somebody calls at 5:30 at night, the club is going to be open. But I guess a question I would have is there a way at least to have some kind of presence, say at the front desk or something? So, because there was a lot of time spent running around between 5 and 10 minutes trying to find ice.
It's maybe something you can talk about offline. I mean, we don't know what's going to transpire with this particular cause of action.
Because they'll use it against us.
I just wanted to ask hours, that's all.
But certainly you can talk to Andrew about it separately.
Okay.
Maybe.
I have a question other than food and beverage. It's my understanding from people that belong to the fitness committee, food committee, that there is continuous violations of how many sessions you can take a week. It's ongoing as we speak. What are we doing about it? What is Therese doing?
I spoke to Nancy this morning and I said, Nancy, I got a report back. These last 2 weeks, we had 0 violations. I'm not sure where and I spoke to her about it, I'm not sure where the confusion is on the information. I will get with Catherine, who's been doing it, and find out maybe there's something she's not looking at and she's seeing something. So, but there was 0 violations. They give me reports and updates every 2 weeks.
Jill, just to close out on the AC units, maybe the facilities committee can look at this. But
Absolutely.
there were several units that were in the reserve to be replaced over the last couple of years, and I don't think any of them, maybe one.
Yeah, I don't
was.
think they were, yeah.
So that money was never spent.
Okay.
And it's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're looking at that now, so, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Andrew?
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your business too. See you up here all the time.
Keith, do you have anything to report?
Just to go over a little bit on what John Fowler was saying. LMP are raising the trees, the palms. They had an excavator out here. They were taking down the palms and doing that thing. Out on Laurel Road, there's 3 dead palms that he was talking about. I just got another bid this morning from a company to take those out, and I'll present that. It's a lot less than one of the other bids I had. So then, of course, the city, we're still waiting on them to get the fence done. It's their fence. We want them to take care of it. So I had been told that somebody was out there fixing the fence. The city was out there, but we went out. That wasn't the case. So you do have in your packet about from Universal Access. And I did reach out to another company. They're going to be there here this week to take a look and then give us another bid on that to see so we can, see what kind of, what they're going to do for us on that. But
So we're not gonna deal with the 71.
We're gonna table 5H. Or ask it to be tabled till we get another bid.
Okay. Is that good?
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, I have one. Who or what committee is responsible for lighting, like in the front of the River Club or even the main entrance?
Well, the lighting that goes down Veneta is all FP&L. So we have called FP&L a couple times for the front entrance to get more light down that road, okay? Out here, that falls under Andrew and his folks to, ground lighting would probably be the best rather than up above for simple reasons of these houses here. Right, you start putting, lights out, because I believe there was a light out back here at one point, and it had to go away because it was shining in people's backyard. So I think ground lighting is probably the best scenario for what Mr. Peratti's talking about, and that would fall under.
Yeah, that's more going around the bend at the stop sign down there.
No, she's talking about right out your door.
No, I think it's the entryway.
It's really dark.
Where you leave, some friend of mine actually fell because he couldn't see.
Yeah, right here.
Right in front of the River Club itself, on
Okay.
both sides.
How about, Andrew, if you take a look at that and see what we might be able to do to provide some additional lighting in that area?
Yeah, and Andrew, if you need help with that, I'm sure somebody from facilities would be
Got it.
happy to help.
And main entrance, lighting, is that landscape committee?
That's a good question. I don't know. Landscape has never done anything with lighting, so
Well,
that is, and I need to know that.
when during the storm, a lot of that in the first island had uplighting in it, okay? I have asked LMP to give us a bid and it's low voltage lighting, okay, that runs down through that, it's not there. To get, what you really want to have is a higher voltage, but that's going to be an electrician, an expense that, I can get a quote on it, but LMP, they can do that landscaping, low voltage wire all the way down the first island, or even probably the second island, and light that up even more. So, but it's.
So was there something there before that's out now?
Yes, there was. And when the trees fell and all that, it took all that out, and then it's all been kind of cut up and done. So it's, the wire is no longer there. It has to be reran and reconnected.
But that comes under.
We can approach it under landscaping.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take it up in landscape.
Okay. Easy issue.
Take down the line.
Any other questions for Keith?
Thank you, Keith.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Before we move on, does anybody need a break?
Oh,
Yes.
wait, I'm sorry, Keith.
Yes, sir.
Who's responsible for, if you go down Pissarro by the Welcome Center, but you're going down Pissarro on the right there, the strip of land between the sidewalk and the road, who's responsible for that? Is it the Welcome Center owners or is it the CDD or?
Is it on the road side of the sidewalk or on the,
It's between the sidewalk and the road.
That typically is owned by the district, but the adjoining property owner has a responsibility to maintain it, just like in front of your house,
Yeah.
for instance. You mow it, things along those lines. So that would be my guess, without looking at anything, that would be my guess.
You talking about the sidewalk or you?
No, I'm talking about
Strip of grass.
The grass in between
well,
the
the
sidewalk
lack
and
of
the curb.
grass. There used to be plantings and it looked nice coming down there, but those are all gone now. They died out or whatever. Now it's just brown.
that's on the golf course side?
No.
Welcome
Welcome
center.
center.
Welcome center
Welcome
side.
center side.
I know we have an issue with the golf course side because of their irrigation that was being used and they've got it blocked off and they're having some issues there. The other side, I'll take a look at and talk to the powers that be at the golf course.
Okay. Because it looks, wow.
Yeah, I'll talk with Jay. He's easy and they're very helpful.
Sometimes.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna take a 10-minute break at 10:56 a.m. And we are back on the record at 11:09 a.m. I do have a few things, supervisors, but first of all, just as a reminder that the next meeting will be held on January 8th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. We have that scheduled as a workshop. Are you going to hold the workshop on January 8th?
Workshop and then meeting?
Workshop is January 8th, regular meeting January 22nd.
Oh,
So I am going to actually be on vacation as of December 25th, returning January 3rd. But I want to leave the workshop agenda at least prepared for you prior to the workshop. So if you could send me whatever items need to be added to the agenda, we can get started on it right away.
Okay.
So the regular meeting would be January 22nd, 2024.
So that's just workshop.
Well, do we want to have the workshop or not?
Yes.
Yes? Yes?
Absolutely.
Yes, it is, okay. Do you
Well,
want to
that's
start at
one.
9:30 or do you want to start at 10?
Well, it's already noticed.
9:30 it is.
9:30.
time out. Workshop only, no meeting, so we can't
Workshop
conduct any
only.
business. We can't. So why
But
we
then
have-
we'll be prepared for the
Well,
22nd.
you
Well,
can,
no, but that's
you
like
can have
6
discussions, you just can't take any formal action.
I know, so that's like not having,
Hello.
so this is the. We're talking like
Can we vote on
6
it?
weeks. We're taking no action.
Well, we had said that we were going to try to do one meeting a month, but have a workshop
Yeah.
earlier on. And this is the first time we're trying it, so let's see how that works and how that affects the meeting at the end of the month.
Can we have a workshop format, but have it be a formal meeting? You know what I mean?
Say that again?
Well,
No,
we were doing a 1 hour workshop, 8:30 to 9:30, then having a meeting.
Yeah. But what if, for
That
example,
seemed
we
to be
maybe we
okay.
need, I think, because it sounded like
I'm
Cheryl
just
wasn't
concerned that we're gonna
Yeah.
go 5, 6 weeks without being able to take any formal action. And we've got stuff like the pickleball courts and fencing and kind of hanging out there. We're gonna have quotes on the rear gate.
Can we treat it as a workshop?
We still have time to renotice if necessary. It really is up to you.
I would like a meeting.
And I assume if it's a regular meeting, you would want staff present too, which is fine, I'm just confirming.
We can do that, and then we can see, do we need one at the end of the month?
So,
Yeah,
Could I-
yeah, that's,
You know, the other thing that I think is causing the dilemma is that we had talked last time about doing one workshop a month, one meeting a month.
Right.
The problem is because we don't have a second December meeting, that's what's causing this big lag.
Correct.
Maybe we have the regular meetings in January and then start the workshop meeting in February.
February?
yeah.
That might
That's a
work.
good
Does
idea.
that work?
Very
But could we
hard,
still
so-
have a little workshop on
Or
maybe
have the workshop
9:30
the
to
second
10:30 on the first meeting? Or have the
Second.
workshop the second meeting?
Second
Well,
non-meeting.
Well, you've already got a workshop, we're gonna place an ad anyway, so you can do what you want. But, you've already got a workshop scheduled for 9:30, you could change it to 8:30 and the meeting at 9:30, or you can make the meeting at 10:30.
Why don't we do that? Because it seems as though there's a feeling that we should have that first meeting in January. So why don't we do the workshop at 8:30 and have a regular meeting at 9:30? Okay?
And I'll work with,
And then on the
Well, then,
22nd is still a regular meeting.
Right now.
Okay.
you could cancel it if
We'll see.
you
Good
decide.
change, okay, sounds good.
Okay, so given the timeline for the agenda,
Yeah, I'm here. I have a doctor's appointment I can do.
Is 9:30 better than 8:30? Is that what you're getting at for the date?
The earlier the better. 8:30 would be better.
For the workshop.
8:30.
On the 8th of January.
This workshop, and then 8th of January at 9:30 is a meeting, and the 22nd at 9:30 is a meeting.
Okay.
You decide what you need out of those three.
Sounds good.
so given the timeline for the final agenda to be issued and the holidays in between and my travel schedule, I'm going to have to start working on the agenda with Michelle, and I will make sure that the agenda is ready. But if there's a change to the agenda after I've approved it, Rich, then I will ask to send it to you first so that you can approve it.
Okay, that's fine.
So we will notice this. I did have a meeting with the new program delivery manager for FEMA. I don't have great news, I have to say. It was very interesting because it's pretty much starting all over with a new person. The program delivery manager did send me a follow-up email requesting several items. One of the items he requested, we've already provided, which are the GPS coordinates for all the signs that were damaged. So I'm gonna be providing that information again. But there's a lot of questions as it relates to the River Club and those that can utilize the facilities. I informed Andy that I received my first determination memo, and it was for another district in Fort Myers. That district's damages were not as extensive as what Venetian has had. And I was surprised to receive the determination memo when they were not far along in the process, because in the Fort Myers area, it's actually worse with the program delivery managers. And a lot of the documentation had not even gone halfway through. So they submitted a determination memo based on the golf club being owned by a private entity and the amenity center being owned by the HOA. So in their determination memo, they reference that the facilities are not open to the public. They're not considering the roadways, the preserve areas, the lakes as facilities based off of their FEMA guidelines. So this district in particular is holding a special meeting to determine whether or not they want to file an appeal. You have 60 days from the date of receipt of the determination memo to file an appeal, and it's an extensive process because you pretty much have to submit documentation proving that you're eligible for public funds, and you have to argue the points that were raised in the determination memo. There's a lot of inaccuracies in that one determination memo because you're not required to own the facilities and have them open to the public. In this one community, it's owned by the HOA and the golf club is owned by a separate entity.
Like here with the golf club.
Exactly. So I'm bringing this up because I do think that as we move further into the process with the new program delivery manager and all of the questions raised, I was asked for a copy of the post orders, for example. They want to verify that there's no issues as it relates to the public having access to the district. So I do expect that this might go in that direction, so we would have to be prepared if that is the case for an appeal.
Now, the community that you're speaking about is not a CDD.
It is a CDD.
It is?
It is a CDD. Yes, the roadways are owned by the district. Same scenarios here. The guardhouse is owned by the district, the golf club is not, and the amenity center is not.
That is the only determination I know of so far from any of my district managers or CDDs that I'm involved with. But they are all asking similar type questions for HOA type information, et cetera, so.
In this scenario, they obtain copies of the HOA documents, and they even reference the HOA documents in the determination memo.
Wanda, does it help that our amenity center is open to non-residents? We have non-resident members.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, here,
But
it does, but I received.
it's not swaying them.
With another program delivery manager for another district that Andy and I are on in Manatee County. I received a lot of questions as it relates to the non-resident user fees. So I do expect that that would be an issue as well, because they're going to say, well, you're charging people to utilize the facilities, they're not open to the public.
Of
So-
course, charging them the same fee.
Right, but of
Effectively
course,
assess
we know
residents.
that a resident pays for facilities through their O&M. And we do make it available to the non-resident at this rate. It's always been fine. It's always passed muster with our other types, IRS and bond issues. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what they do.
Have we CC'd our congressperson?
We don't have the determination memo yet for Venetian. So I'm just going through, I'm forewarning you of
We
what is
have
happening
other
from what we're
districts
seeing.
reached out, like in Lakewood Ranch, they've reached out to local officials and stuff. So far, it hasn't really made an impact, but they haven't received a determination yet in Lakewood Ranch either.
Okay.
So I'm going to be working on submitting all of the additional documentation that was requested this week. I'll have everything over to him. If there's anything else that they need, I'm pretty sure he'll ask for it. Any questions for me?
Yes.
help me understand, from a financial closing standpoint, fiscal year 22, 23, is it closed or will it be a final?
It's closed. So the way, once your fiscal year is closed, it's closed. So if you need to make any adjustments, those adjustments are made by the auditor via the audit. So what Vesta needs to do is prepare a schedule that they can provide to the auditor. When the auditor submits the request for documentation, that's sent over to Vesta to provide information, and they would do it via the audit.
Okay, so when Vanessa says there's things in October that are gonna get put into 22, 23,
It'll be done
it's
via
the
the audit.
same process?
Yes.
Okay, and then, Andrew, just for your, or somebody should understand, getting back to Dan Armstrong, there's adjustments they wanted to, hope to be able to make. There was also $75,000 of due from expectation between the district and Vesta, that when we sat down with Sydney, the finance committee, and went through all the details, there was about $25,000 of expense in that 75 that should be expensed in 2023, and about $46,000 in reserves that should be going against 22, 23. So I don't know who wants to talk to Dan. I'll try to make a point to do it myself, so he's aware of the process. I don't, but you don't, so that could be a year away.
Okay. Well, the audit prep work will begin soon because the audit is due in June. So they should already be starting to get work done on it. But the auditor will send a list of requests over that Vanessa will provide to Vesta when she receives it from the auditor.
All right, thank you.
Can I give them a heads up if you want to provide the details subsequently? Get closer to those numbers.
Okay, well, he's got some of it, but he doesn't, I don't think he has the details of the 75,000 to do from.
Okay.
Although Sydney has them.
On that, Belinda, it's a similar topic, because I know that we spent some, I think that we spent some money in fiscal 22, 23 toward damages that are really being thought of as assessment expenses.
Can ask that question. That is an accrual for the lichens. I don't know if the board recalls, I mentioned that we were still pending one final payment to lichens for the signage replacements. So that's an accrual. We haven't paid it yet, but Vanessa accrued for it in the financial statements.
And those will all get this audit adjustment and be put back into 23, so that line.
So they'll show up in that line 66 on the general fund income statement.
Yes.
There it is. Yeah, okay. I was gonna ask that. And then, two other quick things. So, Dana, I guess when Dana was here reporting, they just dropped off hard copies of their report.
They did.
Can we, in the future, or maybe it's really a Ken thing, can we ask them to email it so that it's part of the board package and we actually have an electronic copy of it? I mean, I know when I had to go make presentations to fund managers, I always had to email my stuff in advance, and I'm sure it was done. So if we could have them email that stuff rather than just bring hard copies.
The report.
Yeah, I think it should be available to the residents, which it's not really because it wasn't part of the board package.
Well, we took it apart and we scanned it, so we
Yeah.
have it scanned.
Yeah.
But it was difficult to scan, but they
Yeah.
should probably provide a
Yeah, we should
PDF.
make it their problem.
Well, Rich, is that something you'll talk?
I can have Dave do that.
Oh, okay. And I'm just gonna ask a general question, Belinda. It's a question that's always been in my head for years. That's the first time I'm asking it. I noticed looking at the audit letter that they, they're not really auditing, internal controls, right? They're, it's more of what I would describe as a superficial audit, which, struck me as odd until.
It's called testing.
Testing,
Not
okay,
superficial.
I'm not a CFO, so I wouldn't know.
Not quite superficial, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Ken is the whiz at this.
Got it, okay. So do you have other districts who do more than that, or is it standard just to do this is really the, okay. That was all I had. Internal controls document that we were supposed to produce in connection with the Dana investments. Did we ever produce that? Are we gonna do an internal controls document?
Are you talking about the investment policy?
Yes.
We adopted an
We
investment
did, and the
policy.
board approved it.
Yeah.
But I thought there was additionally, there was an internal controls document that was requested.
It's just the investment policy that describes who can do what.
Okay, all right, I thought there was
We had
something
a
else on
separate
top of that.
resolution also.
Never mind. Let me know what tell us this.
So just tell me, what do you want Data to send? You want to send the PDF?
I think in the future, when they come to make presentations.
Right.
It would be helpful if they would send their package in advance, so it's part of the board package.
Well, what about the one you did present? Do you want that one?
I got it.
Oh,
Scan
okay,
and send it to me.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I just in the future, it's just
In the
helpful to
future,
have
fine.
it in there, yeah.
No
Yeah,
problem.
You want it sent electronically, so we don't have to manually scan.
Exactly.
That's fine.
Let us do more work.
Okay.
Cheryl, are you gonna have any major proposals for the upcoming agenda? Does LMP owe any or any other vendor? No? Okay, because we'll need those in advance.
I think we're actually good. Well, I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll have
I
the
think
gate
today
access
kind of cleaned it.
item that we're tabling.
Oh, I did want to talk about security. I actually had a conference call with Keith and the representative from Allied Universal. They're submitting a proposal for an increase. When I first saw it, I said, no, Keith, we cannot present this because they just received a fairly large increase and we need to have the discussions with Allied. So they've reduced it to what we budgeted for, but I am going to be presenting it for discussion with the board. They are going back to the options that were requested. They're making revisions to the options as well. So I'll make sure that that's on the agenda as well for your review.
Okay. Now, what did you say about the back gate?
I'm sorry, the item that we're tabling, 5H,
Yeah.
we'll want on the next agenda as well.
So
we'll have
moving
that
forward
second
with
one.
our agenda, the next item on the agenda is item number 5A, which is the public hearing for tennis fees to be amended and addressed. We also have the consideration of resolution 2024-03, amending the district's rules and rates for use of the River Club and tennis facilities. This is behind tab number 2 for your review.
Right, and board members, I'll talk procedurally, we've been through this before, but when you're ready, we get a motion and a second to open the public hearing. We take any public comment that is present, then a motion and a second to close the public hearing. You have your opportunity to have any discussion you want, and then I've prepared a resolution to adopt those revised rates for your consideration.
Then I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
The public hearing is now open. So we are going to take comment from the public, but for the purposes of just this item only, are there any public comments?
Point of information.
Sure.
Are we only talking, as part of this, are we only talking about tennis fees, rates, or are we talking about anything on the River Club fee schedule?
I made the notice broad enough. If there's something you want to talk about, we could.
Oh, good.
I'm scared now.
Since there are no comments from the public, we need a motion to close the public hearing.
I have no comment regarding tennis fees whatsoever, other than being that there's nobody here to discuss it or have any issues with it, who are the tennis players. I don't think there's sufficient notice available to people to come make public comment, because you had to go read rule of minutes to find out who's on the table.
No, we've had sufficient notice.
We published it.
I've been noticed for a
Okay.
number of weeks.
All right.
I'll make a motion that
Okay.
we close public comment.
Public hearing? Is there a second?
1 second.
I just have one question.
Okay,
If I can.
Has there ever been any consideration given to them providing a portion of what they receive for private lessons back to the club?
That'd be part of the contract negotiation.
Yes. Yeah, it's really not a fee issue, and I don't,
It's not a fee issue.
And we have potential issues with our bonds when we start doing fee sharing. We've experienced that in the past.
We also get rental portion from those lessons. You understand that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We also receive rentals fees when when lessons are given to non-residents.
Non-resident.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. I'll look at it again. Thank you very much.
Are there any other public comments?
Okay, so we
Move to
But we got one,
I just walked in late, is that okay?
Ruth, this only deals with the tennis section.
No.
That's it.
Fee schedule.
Sorry.
Sorry. Okay, being
Anything
that,
related to fee schedule.
Okay, we need a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we close public comments.
Second.
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
So,
The public hearing is now closed.
as I said, board members, now is your opportunity for any discussion, and then once you're ready, we have a resolution that I've prepared that will adopt whatever changes you decide on.
I have a comment. Jill has a comment. She
You
grabbed the
spoke
mic.
up first.
I had my hand up first.
Oh, you did?
Okay, let's go.
So, I would suggest, I turn on the mic. Since this is going into the River Club fee schedule that we would have to update every time we want to change it, I would suggest not having specific names on the cost per hour, like Dave and Esther, but just make it director and assistant bro, something like that. That way,
Good point.
if it changes in the future, you don't have to deal with it again.
Good point.
As to the amount, I'm kind of indifferent since I don't play tennis or intend to. I do have a couple of other questions. Now that I brought up the non-resident member issue, we may not want to address it, but I was gonna suggest we increase that annual fee to be closer to what residents are paying as assessment, because I think we haven't changed it in years. And we've gotten to the point where our tax assessment or assessment is on average, I think, more than $34.50 a year. Why wouldn't a non-resident pay as much as a resident's paying?
Well, that number, there's really no secret formula for it.
Right.
That number is basically, as we've compiled it in the past anyway, sort of a mixture between what the resident pays, sort of melded together with what it might cost for a similar facility in our area. So at the time that we set this, we looked at some other clubs and things along those lines, and the board came up with this calculation. I don't know how relevant it still is. Maybe it is too low. I don't know, but it's more than just your O&M. It's sort of a mixture of looking at both of those factors.
I don't know what a non-golf membership at other clubs in the area are, but maybe it's something.
Non-tennis membership?
Well, it's not necessarily a non-tennis membership. It was more just
Because a membership here is everything but golf.
it was more just what is the membership at some of these private clubs, for instance, in our area. You know, at the time we looked at, I think, Venice Golf and Country Club, maybe Plantations,
Plantation,
a
yeah.
few others,
Yes.
and looked at their rates and sort of, came up with this fee. As you said, Ken, it may or may not still be relevant, but that's what it's comprised
Yeah,
of.
but just the fact that it hasn't changed in several years suggests to me that it can or should be higher. So I don't know what the right number is.
We need some data for that, is the thing. We can't just decide, let's make it 4,000.
We can't arbitrarily
I don't like that
put
word.
down $10,000.
Lawyers don't like that word.
Okay, but arbitrarily,
How many non-resident members do we have?
5.
5?
A non-resident club
A
membership.
couple of them may be dropping off, but we have 5, which surprised me. I thought it's more than I thought.
And currently the rate is
$34.50 a
$34.
year. And that's everything that residents get.
I don't see why it can't just be the same as, what residents are, to me, it's as simple as looking at the tax bill, isn't it? And seeing what residents are paying.
But it's not everything that,
Every tax bill.
it's not everything that residents get, because it's only tenants, right?
No,
It's
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 the whole
the
share.
amenities.
It's
It's
absolutely
all the use of all the amenities?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
not all tax bills are different. They're all the same for the River Club O&M.
What?
River Club O&M doesn't vary by household, does it?
But it is use of all amenities, so like if you wanted to eat here, you're treated as a member, for instance,
Well, anybody can eat here.
or whatever else there might be.
Okay.
Includes the pool, right?
Tennis,
Yes.
pickleball,
Yeah.
pool,
Fitness classes
Yes.
for free?
Yes.
That's a parade.
fitness classes, they're
Yes.
filling up half the classes,
Yeah,
non-residents.
So what is the River Club on that?
yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what the number is, Jim?
I think it's a little over $4,000.
We
Well,
have
no, it's not
plantation.
our.
Oh, no, plantation. Oh,
No, here,
Here.
the River Club O&M.
I've got the assessment table on my iPad. I'll look at it. I think it's a little over $4,000. Well, I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, I would agree, it should be,
It should be what we pay.
it should be what everybody else pays. Sure.
Well, I think there's a range internally, depending on house lot size, all those kinds of things, but I think the minimum or average is probably around 3,800.
And at clubs similar to bars.
Plantation's around that much, yeah. Non-golf. Sports membership, which entitles you to the pools and the pickleball courts, bocce and dining.
It's 3,800.
I have to double check. I haven't looked at the last, year.
No, I'm sorry, I was thinking of the typical tax bill.
But what if we brought it up to what would be the highest tax bill? For the largest town?
I don't know what that is, and you people that live on Portofino probably know.
Some of us only have one home.
Well said.
Here.
So, but I think what Jill was saying is that the River Club component of the tax bill is the same for everybody.
I think so. I think
That's
that's
that
right.
I wasn't aware of.
I'm looking at the assessment table.
No, I wasn't thinking that.
Me either.
I am. All right, here we go.
But Andy, when you say we can't deal with that, I know you don't like the word arbitrarily.
I don't like the word arbitrarily, but the discussion we're having now, at least we have a basis behind this calculation.
Can we say up to?
No.
No, we don't want to leave it, whose discretion is it then to say,
Well,
you're 3,600 and you're
Well, it does vary
3,700?
by-
Meaning
varies
that
by
we don't have to come
That's
back
right.
next
Yes,
week.
it does vary
It
by
does.
parcel.
By
It varies
size.
by
So, being that you have it up for the estate homes, what's the number?
Yeah, for the estate homes, I make sure. That is per unit.
But I don't know if you want to spend much time on it today. but,
No.
Since I don't know when we'll address it again, that was the only thing.
Well, it's a good
It
point.
takes
A couple
weeks to notice this and be
Right.
able to have one of these hearings. And once we have one, I think everything's up for grabs, right?
Yes, I made the notice
Right.
expansive enough to address this.
Can you
If
make,
you wanted.
can you have more than one of these hearings a year?
Oh, sure. We could continue
I
this
think we should
hearing,
think
but
about it,
I,
because the number's not
Yes, I
gonna do
like-
it.
I
It's a
like
lot
it.
less.
we could continue this one, but I think that you want to try and get the tennis fees adopted today.
Yes.
don't you?
Yes.
Well, we can do that and then continue it in the sense of doing some research as to what that non-resident fee should be.
Yeah, or we can do it at the same time, I mean, it's a few more months from now, but we can do it at the same time we do the budget. It's gonna change again, potentially.
Okay, well, we have a workshop on the 8th. And how about if we as a board discuss that issue at that workshop?
Because that number's not gonna do.
And
that.
deal with,
It's not
and deal with the tennis issue, which is the issue at hand, deal with that today.
Okay,
Can we do that?
yeah, you can, but we're not necessarily gonna, as I understand it, we're not gonna continue this public hearing. We're gonna,
I'm saying that we're probably not.
Right.
Because if you say we'll deal with it at budget time or whatever.
Right.
Yep.
I know it's money still, but it sounds like we only have 5 members, so it's not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Ken's point is well taken about removal of the names. I think that's,
Absolutely.
we should do that. Good point.
I have a question. Andrew, remind me the gratuity for dinner, for just dinners at the River Club, is it 18% or 20? 20. So we should change that here. The fee schedule says 18. I'd like to propose 20.
Apologize.
It is 18, sorry.
18, then it goes to, I'm thinking of the 2%.
I'd still like to propose it to be 20. I think that's competitive.
Yeah, it is.
Do we need to change the special event percentage then?
Is that at 22?
Why? It
It's at
says 20.
Is 22?
It should be 20.
So this should be 20 and 22.
That's
And then
correct.
number events,
I
I
would
think,
propose
was
that.
24.
You can second.
I second it.
Well, we can just make all these changes in discussion, and then when we do the resolution, it will be inclusive of whatever we've discussed.
Okay.
If there are any others, there may be.
That's all I had. I'm certainly not going to bring up anything about charging for fitness classes. I would never do that.
Do we know this?
Oh, these people. But send the certified letter.
Oh, golly, no.
Moving along.
Yeah, I'm done.
So we're gonna raise that to 20%?
20 and 22.
20 for daily food and beverage and 22 on special events.
Anyone else have any other changes?
Just a comment, as the only tennis player on the board, I'm just gonna point out once again, I think the rates for the tennis lessons are high. They're among the highest in the area. I pulled the rates from a nearby tennis club over on Auburn Road, and they're substantially less. So I'm just pointing that out.
Well, that being said, that may come to bite it.
Yes.
And people will go elsewhere.
True, exactly.
If the rate is too
Yeah.
high.
Yeah. I'm only pointing it out.
Oh, well,
I'm just pointing out the facts.
Same qualifications.
Absolutely.
Be positive. Of that.
All right, if there's nothing further, then we'd be looking for a motion to approve resolution 2024-03 with the changes as noted on the record.
Andy.
She said it's 24 for banquets, I heard 22, I just want to make sure you heard that.
Well, I heard that. See,
I
banquets,
moved
that's
the
typical.
I moved the motion.
So is that what a special event is in here?
That's correct.
I think so.
Okay, so it's 22 and 24.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and I think Ernest moved the resolution.
I'll second that.
Alrighty.
Any other discussion?
I'm sorry.
Any further
What
discussion?
did we end up doing?
We have a motion to accept it as presented,
With removal
with
of
the
the
changes that were made for names and such. Any other discussion?
I don't know. Jill, I know you said the tennis club is less. Are other places?
In terms
No.
of you mean in terms of the rates?
Yeah.
The rates that I know of, yes.
Well,
I mean, I don't
what
have
do you-
I don't
what do you
have a
know of?
spreadsheet of all the rates, but I'm just
I'm
saying.
shocked.
I know, I did when I was the chair of the rec committee, but it's old. But, to Rich's point, the market will out, so.
Only time will tell on that
Take a
issue.
look.
So.
Nobody comes.
Any other discussion? Can we call it?
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
There you go.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 5B, which is the appointment of the advisory committee members. Appointment of advisory committee members for expiring terms. I did provide the board with a PDF copy that included all of the intents received. Just as a note, supervisors, I also highlighted the intents that were received after the deadline as well.
I just want to say one thing to my fellow supervisors. we all have access to the terms of office in a sense that the residents have on these committees. I think it's important that by certainly October or maybe end of September, that you notify your committees whose term is expiring, so that they know. I mean, they know as well. They know they've been elected for, and ultimately, it's incumbent upon them to know. But I think it's important that they be reminded as to who's up, and it might save some problems in the future. Okay.
Who wants to start?
How are we going about this? Committee by committee?
Committee by committee.
You pointing it?
Well, go ahead, or I'll start.
You wanna start
I don't
next?
care.
So why don't we start with
Sure.
Ken at the far end, and
Okay.
we'll just go down the line.
Okay. All right, so interestingly enough, we have three positions coming due
On
on finance, reserve finance.
Right.
So, part of my dilemma, we had one person, who was not a current member. The three incumbents all expressed to me that they wanted to re-up.
Okay.
I had sent an email to Belinda saying that, but I also reminded each of the individuals they needed to submit their intent.
Right.
Two of them did, one didn't, until this morning. And even though I reminded him several times. So my dilemma is, they told me they wanted to. I emailed Belinda weeks ago that they wanted to. Now, is that an intent, or was that just communication? And they had to submit an intent. Help me understand that.
I think that's an interesting situation, but Linda was notified that A, B, and C wanted to continue.
I was, and this has happened in the past where they either forget or they feel that by relaying the information to the liaison that they don't have to apply. But we did include that information in the official notification of the vacancies as well.
I know.
I mean, it's really up to you. They did provide you with notice that they wanted to continue to serve. It's a decision you'll have to make as a board.
Well, I had, so Don and Mark submitted their intent.
Yes.
David had not. There's one person who has a good resume that I think would be a good addition to the committee if there's an opening. Another candidate, Diane, put in for 3 committees, and Reserve Finance was like her 3rd choice. So if I were going to pick one who's not a current member, it would be Byron Matson. However, there is an incumbent whose term is not expired, who I know is moving
Correct.
out of the area
Correct.
by spring, and he's told us that in the committee. So there'll be an opening. He says he'd like to serve until he moves, but that means there's going to be an opening. So I can either say the 3 incumbents stay on now, and I would ask Byron to join at that point, or I can have him come in now and the incumbent can come back later. So it's a bit of a dilemma. I tend to lean towards, if an incumbent is interested in staying, I think they have a little priority over somebody else, only because they've been involved for a number of years. So my recommendation is for the 3 incumbents, Don, David, and Mark, to remain, and when there's an opening, I would resubmit, assuming he's still interested at the time, Byron Matson as that replacement candidate, which will be coming up in a few months.
I think that's a good choice.
So that's where I am.
Okay.
We approve these individually,
You
just do them
want to
all.
approve individually or all at once?
I think you can do it all at once.
Okay.
I'm taking notes as you go.
All right, so we have 3 incumbents from
I have
finance.
All right, for Landscape Committee, we have 3 expiring members, Lynn Mattson, Debbie Garricky, and Harry Wildman. All have submitted their intent to stay on, and I recommend approval of all 3 incumbents staying on. For Social and Dining,
Hang on a second, Sharon, who was the third one? I have Lynn, Debbie.
Harry Wildman. Ready? Okay. For Social and Dining, there are 4 expiring terms. Diane Baselnot, Kathy Thomaston, Pat Jones, and Linda Cotero. On those particular, we have Linda wanting to, she has asked to re-up. We also have 1 resigning member, and that's Joe Brown. He is resigning as of January 1st, midterm. And so that means I now have 4 openings. I have 4 intents to serve on this committee, and I would recommend we accept them all. They are Darlene Schimberg, Sue Herbst-Ecker, Virginia Ginny Keller, and Robin Kovacs.
Okay. Good idea.
Cool, and you're committee-less. Well, I have a much bigger dilemma than Ken, which isn't a dilemma because I screwed up. I told
Put that in a minute.
somebody, oh, it's already there. I told someone who was expiring, I didn't think expired till next year, and got a couple people reversed. But the long and short of it is, I have 3 expirations. One of them is Mark Kissinger, Bob Rufato, and Tim Carr. Mark will not be re-upping, but Bob will and Tim will. We had 2 intents. One of them I know was late, and that's Rich Goodman. The other one I had contacted before the meeting and hadn't heard back, although I just heard back from her and she withdrew. So even though Rich's was a day or 2 late, I would like to, in addition to the 2 who are re-upping, Bob Rufato and Tim Carr, I'd like to put Rich Goodman on as the 3rd person whose term would begin in January of this year.
I have a suggestion.
Sure.
It has nothing to do with Rich. But because of this situation, do you want to say, and it's up to you, do you want to say that you still have 1 to be filled and reopen it for another week or 2? Make things, I don't want to set a precedent, that's why. I don't want to set a precedent that we're accepting an application that was late.
Well, but we have, I think
cover that.
I think we accepted dog park nominations late, didn't we?
That's an ad hoc committee. No, that was none of those.
Not at all.
I thought we did. Oh, I thought
I
former
just don't want to set a
supervisor came in
precedent. I
late.
see what you want to do. We'll just have Rich apply again. So this way he falls into,
Sure, that's fine.
can we do that?
Okay.
So how about if we fill just, do you understand what I'm trying to do?
No.
Yeah.
Well, what I don't want to do is,
Except, she has, how many places do you have? You have 3, right?
there were 3 out of 5.
3 out of
So
5. So if she accepts 2 and then say, I still need another 1, and a note goes out,
Reopens it. That
Mr.
was not
Goodman-
taking a
Mr.
late,
Goodman-
late submitter.
Mr. Goodman applies within the window that's open, and we haven't set a precedent about allowing somebody to come on that submitted late. That's what I'm thinking. What do you think?
Who submitted late?
Rich Goodman.
He's among the ones we have.
Yeah, but he submitted it late,
No,
that's what I'm saying.
he missed the deadline.
But Linda still sent it on, but said it was late.
Okay.
I don't know, does my suggestion make any sense to the rest of you? The reason I'm suggesting it is I don't want to set a precedent that's going to come back and cause us a problem later on.
I hear you, but I'm not sure in this case it will. We've never had a flurry of people trying to get on facilities. What I don't want to do is drag it out. I mean, Rich has been coming actually to facilities meetings throughout the calendar year. He probably came to more facilities meetings than he missed as an audience member. So I take your point, but I think I would really like to go ahead and just
Fine, I'll
get
accept your
this
opinion,
going.
that's fine.
Okay. And there was my mistake in there too.
Oh,
Just for the round.
okay.
Twice he said it.
Cheryl, can you repeat yours for me again? I took notes quickly, but I want to be sure.
So landscape, you know the.
No,
three-
I
okay,
just social.
Social and dining. The four expiring, you know, Diane, Kathy, Pat, and Linda. Linda is re-upping, and so that leaves me with, I also have one resigning, which is Joe Brown. So that leaves me with 4 openings. I have 4 intents to serve, and I'm approving and recommending approval of all of them. Darlene Schimberg, Sue Herbst Ecker, Virginia Ginny Keller, and Robin Kovacs.
Got it. Thank you. Ernest?
Okay, I'll do fitness and pool first. First of all, I would like to thank all of those individuals, residents that submitted intents to serve. I deem all of you qualified, extremely qualified, but I have to make a decision. As it relates to fitness and pool, 2 individuals submitted. One is Audrey Gordon, a member of Parliament of Canada. And she was, until recently, she's definitely qualified, but there may be some tenancy, residency issues. The other individual was Robert Short. He's lived here 5 years. He's in the gym every day, and he's committed to improving fitness and pool for all the residents here. And I would like to select Robert to serve on that committee. Now, for my most exciting committee, yes, I know. I interviewed everyone, had good conversations. I was starting off with Tim Carr, very cordial conversation. He's definitely qualified and is willing to serve and improve maintenance as well as other issues that he deems exist at the tennis facilities. I have also a Fred Bass, a very delightful individual. Good conversation and all. He loves tennis. He plays there. He plays 3 or 4 times a week. He plays pickleball, and he loves our waters courts, he says. And then I have 3 others. First of all, these individuals currently serve. Brenda Mike, who's an excellent tennis player and has the passion for Venice tennis here and represents us in leagues as well as social play. And she would like to serve another term. I have the Royal Lady of Tennis, I call here in the Venetian, Karen Wilson. She would like to serve, and I would like to honor her request. She contributes a lot with her opinion, with her interpersonal skills to the committee. And
she's a sitting member.
Yes, she is.
Okay.
So she's a sitting member. And then Pat Hinch, who has requested to serve another term. She has served with distinction, leadership, fairness, and has championed the cause of tennis and pickleball here. She plays in leagues as well as social. I have to thank her husband, Carl, for all he's done to allow her to spend so much time as she does in contributing to tennis. And I would urge Pat's reappointment to the Racket Sports Advisory Committee.
So which three you, the 3 incumbents?
Yes.
Okay, so that, just give Belinda the names again.
Pat Hinch, Karen Wilson, Brenda Mike.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendations as given from the liaisons.
Is there a second?
Any discussion?
All those
Call
in
it.
favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, liaisons. I think you did a good job.
So Michelle will work on redesignating the email accounts to the newly appointed committee members. Those that are existing and were reappointed, they'll still have their same email.
And would you ask Michelle to send out a new updated list of committee members and their expiration dates?
I will.
That's the wrong way to put it.
Bigger
Okay,
font.
when the term expires.
Can I ask a question on that? Their terms expire on the 24th of January. Will that still be the date?
I think that's the year, January of 2024.
January 2024.
24th.
Yeah.
Just the month of January.
So it's
We didn't set an
So,
exact date.
January
okay,
January 1st, the new members take over.
okay, that's what I was, the difference. That's what okay.
The next item on the agenda is item number 5C, which is the discussion and consideration of the proposals for POS systems. This is behind tab number 3 for your review. Andrew, do you want to lead the board with this discussion?
Sure.
Here, Andrew.
No, it's not.
Oh, I want to pass it on Jones and
Okay, we were to go revisit the POS system companies that recently, I guess about a year ago, did their presentation, so forth, one being Jonas and the other being North Star. And we revisited their bids, and what we got out of it as we were moving forward was utilizing the SIL. We're going to start with Jonas. I'm going to look at the purchase option because as you went through the lease program, it comes out to about the same amount of money. So end result is the best way to go is probably the purchase option. In reference to Jonas versus North Star, those came on pretty much the same price too on an annual basis. So they were just a few dollars away from each other. So what do? You go with the Cadillac of the brands, or you go with the other one? I am familiar with North Star, and Julie, who had great input, is familiar with Jonas. And as we listened and watched the presentation online from the Jonas gentleman, Eric, there was definitely much more with the Jonas system, and I believe it's a more user-friendly system as we go. So I would just lead off of the Jonas system at this point. Some of the things we did find out, they were charging us a hosting fee. I just want to note on the hosting fee for the server, as we looked into it and spoke to, Julie had spoke to one of her friends who has Jonas at the country club over in Bel Air. And they went without the hosting fee and they ran into some problems. They had some issues with the system and they ended up going back to getting the hosting fee. So just keep that in mind.
Could you just quickly tell me what the hosting fee involves?
It pretty much, the hosting fee pretty much is anything goes wrong with it, the servers, anything goes through the server. So
they'll take care of it.
They host them on their servers rather than us.
Okay.
So if we move on, the final copy that came out, I believe you have it. The proposal for the 30 days was $62,144. Is that the copy you have on Jonas purchase? And they look identical, the lease and the purchase, so I know it could be confusing.
The purchase one is $57,195.
Right, that's the old one. It's been updated to $62,145. The required deposit was $31,073. Everything else remains the same, in line with the purchase. So a couple things we did note, found out as we went through the software modules. which is on the next page. The global user licenses would remain the same, which also includes business intelligence, general ledger, accounts payable. The training hours are there on the right, so they're the cost breakdown in the training hours. The membership, Jonas membership and supporting modules. Again, membership receivables, bank interface, credit card interface, document management bundle. Again, many more hours involved, which is a total of 23 hours in training for that grouping. Jonas point of sale support, which is the largest part. What has gone up is the original estimate only had us for 6 POS systems. We need 8 to do appropriate coverage. And that came up in cost, which went up $2,000, and also the training hours. So your total training hours on that is 68 training hours. Jonas activity management and other modules, again, pretty much everything remained the same. Court booking. So just a note on court booking, that would allow us to book lap bowl lanes, anything to do with tennis, pickleball, and what's that? In fitness, anything to do with fitness too. So all that would be under one umbrella, and you're able to book those all from their site.
Did not include fitness. We asked that.
I think we added, didn't they add that?
No, that's under,
It originally did not, you're correct.
there's a class scheduling registration module that's separate that got added in. It's in this quote, but it's not part of that.
But it is included,
Sorry?
but it is included in this number.
Yes.
In the new number, yes.
It's a separate, yes,
But it's
separate
in the new
module,
number.
but it is included.
Which, eliminates some other systems we're on now that are broken up over 3 different areas. Credit card interface and document modules. So as we move on to dining, reservations, that's pretty much the same. It's nothing new. It lets us do some other special items on there that we saw in the back of the house that look much more user-friendly for the staff and so forth. So once they are shown and they're trained, that they'd be able to train someone else fairly simple. Class scheduling. Event management is probably one of the best because it self-creates the banquet event order they call the BEO. You preload that information and it'll create the banquet event order for you, which we even do that for parties here, an event party on Thursday night, even though it's just a dinner. The chef has to know what he needs, everybody in their areas, so we use them all the time, not just for outside catering and so forth. Unlimited users for event management and activity tracking. So
What does that mean, activity tracking?
event management, activity tracking is any type of activity that's going on, events, banquets, so forth, your counts, information loaded in, number counts, have they gone up, down, so forth.
Reporting, basically.
Yeah, pretty much reporting sales, yeah.
Andrew, is kitchen in here? The back tickets printing in the kitchen, is that in here somewhere?
It is, and the KDS, it would include the KDS system, which would be the touchscreen system for the cooks. And there'd be one for the cooks, one for the salad area, and then one for the front for the servers.
So the server would, as I've seen in other restaurants, the server would put in your order rather than on a pad, a paper pad. into a iPad kind of thing.
iPad.
Go directly into.
You can do that, but not internally, we wouldn't do that. Because you need too many, the handhelds.
Okay.
And there's licenses for every one of those.
So it would still be the traditional way,
Of
pencil and
entering.
paper
Correct.
kind of thing.
Now, there would be 2 iPads for outside, for taking orders outside, and they come in automatically.
Okay, so that'll eliminate the run back and forth.
That's correct.
People at Tiki Bar,
Mhm.
their order would be taken, sent electronically into the kitchen.
That's correct.
And then in here, they would walk over here, input the ticket.
And put the
And it
ticket
would go to the
in,
kitchen.
yeah, right.
And same thing in the bar, so if somebody ordered nachos in the bar, it gets tagged in there,
Could either do it at the POS or off the iPad.
in the bar.
Oh, the bar over here,
Right.
yes, I'm sorry. Yes, that's correct.
I thought the service would have tablets as well.
No,
What's the cost to?
That's why.
you have to have a user license for every POS used. So that means every iPad, you can.
That's why I thought we had 8.
What's the cost?
No, that was for, just to cover, to cover everything. That would be 2.
We added 2 for.
It's like 8 registers, sorry, but it's like 8 registers.
Right.
And then the 2 tablets for the pool deck, because you don't, because in the dining room, you wouldn't have.
What are the 4, what are the other 4 then? You got, we had 2 at the Tiki, 2 at the bar, and I thought 4 for service.
2 back here.
That's KDS.
No,
You don't need them.
units right there.
Why do you need those?
You would, something went down, you need that as a backup.
The 4 would be the front end.
A couple iPads is not gonna replace that.
It's
Now,
not
you could-
6 and 2 on the quote, I don't have it in front of me, it's
No,
not
it's
6 and 2.
updated to 8.
Then why 8? If I'm coming in
Because
back
you
to
had,
6.
you had 1 in tennis.
Ah,
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
Well,
Okay,
yeah,
of course.
Oh.
we're looking a little bit down the road, bigger
Well,
picture.
no, there is 1 in tennis.
So you have to have a POS system. But that's the 8.
What's the cost though, if you, to Ken's point, I guess if you did think servers in here were gonna have handhelds, I mean, is it prohibitive? I understand you're talking about licenses, not just the hardware, but the licenses.
Yeah, your license.
That's the problem. You'd have to add about 4 or 5 more licenses.
And then, is there like an upfront and then a per year cost for licenses probably, yeah?
I think the licenses are a one-time hit.
On the purchase option, the licenses are one time.
Okay.
On the hosting, they're annual.
Okay.
So that would add significant to the annual. There's also, do you mind if I? Absolutely, go ahead.
This is your area.
He was there, he was at my.
I spent 2.5 hours with the sales guy
Thank God.
from Jonas, on the call with Julie and
Great.
Andrew, trying to understand it myself. So for us, I agree with the decision that if you're gonna go with a new system, Jonas is a better option than North Star for both what it uses and interestingly enough, I was surprised that the cost came out pretty similar. I thought North Star would be lower, but they weren't. So when you look at the options, we're really down to 3 options. 1, stay with what we've got. 2, go to the software purchase option of Jonas. And 3, go with the hosted option, where you don't purchase the software, you use their services for everything. The primary difference is upfront cost versus ongoing. So the upfront and the purchase option, which users tend to go with, comes down to, do you want to put that upfront cost? What Andrew hasn't mentioned yet is in both cases, there's about a $20,000 hardware purchase involved in both options for on-site hardware. Then you've got the software purchase in the
and the purchase option versus hosted. So the upfront cost, a one-time cost for the purchase option is $95,000 in hardware and software licenses, training, setup, the website, which is their Clubhouse module, all of the online features, which I think we want for residents, to be able to use it online. The one-time charge on the purchase, on the hosted option is a little over $60,000. So there's a $35,000 upfront cost difference. Now, how do you get that back? In the purchase option, you're paying for annual support and the Clubhouse website option. That and the cloud server piece of it. So that's about $35,000 a year. Similarly, the same three apply to the hosted model plus hosting, which is another 15,000. Well, it's about 40,000 on the hosted side and 28,000 on the purchase side. So effectively, you're going to spend 7,000 or more a year on the hosted side. So the 3-year cost comes out about the same, but more upfront. So you're going to spend 123,000, 124,000 upfront on the purchase model and 100,000 on the hosted, and then 40,000 a year on the hosted versus 35 or so. So over 5 years, the purchase option is actually less. So if you look at this saying, we're going to buy it, we're going to maintain it, we're going to get annual support and module updates on a regular basis. So this is something that we would keep for, what, 5, 10, 20 years? We've had the current software for as long as I know. 107 years? At least the 10 years I've been here, maybe longer. So the purchase option is advantageous over the long run. The question is, do you want to put the 130,000 up front versus 100? And my suggestion is, as long as the funds are available, which I think they are now, none of this is in the budget. None of this is in the reserve money. There's nothing in the reserve, so a few years out, and it's like $18,000.
It's operational in the reserve study.
I'm talking about the first, no, in the reserves, I'm talking about replacement costs. The operational side is, there's none of, what's in the current budget is what we're paying today for Easy Suites and Club Essentials, which is $22,000 a year.
Okay, okay, with Easy Suites.
So we'd be going from 22 to 35 a year under the purchase model option. We'd be going to 40 under the hosted option. So.
What about hardware over the 5 years? Would there be an issue of, very little hardware in a setting like that, I would think is gonna last 5 years. So do we need to think about hardware investments over that 5 years?
Well, you've got money in the reserves to effectively replace hardware 5 years out and 10 years out. There's 16,000 5 years out and 20,000 10 years out. So it's probably a little light, but only a few $1,000s.
And there's no difference in upgrades between, like you get an upgrade whether you're leasing or
Yeah, as long as you're paying annual support, you get all the upgrades.
And the annual support includes like, data protection, backup, conversion of data. Is that an upfront cost?
Yes. Data conversion is actually only $995, interestingly enough.
Really?
Yeah. And that's what they quoted under both options. The website's the same, within $1,000. Hardware's the same. So Again, the big difference is the hosting cost versus owning it. And again, I think it's about equal over 3 years, and then you start getting ahead of the game if you buy it after 5 years.
Yeah, I think when I looked at this, I saw the break even at about 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way we would change this system. It's taken us how many years to look at this?
No,
So
it wouldn't be changed in 3 days.
this makes total sense to buy if we have the.
So again, to me, it came down to purchase it, install it, and then versus do nothing. Now, what I'm still not clear on, in the do nothing option, is there more we can do with the existing software that we're just not using, and with more training and, you know, reset up and upgrading, would we be sufficient? That's arguable. Another concern I have about buying it, installing it, training everybody, is with turnover, you're gonna incur some cost down the road of retraining people. Basically, what we have has deteriorated because of turnover. So we're not using, every time there's turnover, you're using less and less of it because people know less and less what to do with it. And we haven't spent a lot of money on upgrading and training what we have.
But would we have that problem regardless with turnover?
Yeah.
Whether it's the old system or the new system, so it seems like a wash to me.
Yeah, no, I agree, you're gonna have the same problem.
Except the difference is.
But
we
we're
need-
putting out a lot of money.
Exactly. I think we need to know how the training will be handled in the future with turnover to make sure, because the degradation of the current system is because nobody knows how to use it anymore.
Yeah.
So how do you keep
Well,
that
that's up to-
knowledge?
that's up to
Exactly, but I think that's
the
part of the assurance that we look for is keeping that training up to date.
Is there may I ask, is there training price just up front, or is there an ongoing?
It's just up front.
You want to deal with that?
This is the implementation cost.
But
So all the
your,
training is training your current staff.
That doesn't mean exactly that amount.
So
of
you've
training. It
got
might be more.
Vesta employee turnover, and frankly, you've got management company turnover. I mean, if we decide 10 years down the road to change management companies, you know, if they're not familiar with Jonas, you're retraining them again.
The only positive might be that it's a software that's used in many clubs, many country clubs, and you can look online and see that.
Oh, yeah.
And it is closer to like.
No question. My club up north just put in Jonas.
Are they?
So
Okay.
they're-
But it is actually similar to like Micros,
Right,
which
it's
is
the
using
Micros,
Applebee's,
It's
Longhorn.
the industry leader in that.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that did strike me as another plus is they have, I don't have a number, but it's in the tens to not 100 YouTube videos of how to specifically use, so it's self-training of going on, taking a new employee and showing them and having them go through their YouTube videos of how to use their software. Now, how good is that? Time will tell, but it's something that was significantly better than what North Star has. And again, because they've been around so long and they're the industry leader, they're doing more in that regard.
Let me just note, also, credit card processing would have to change. We're presently under merchandise. What is it?
Elavon or merchant services?
Merchant services, sorry. And
They use Elavon.
we have to go to Elavon or Shift4,
Yeah.
which helps because then you can negotiate the price.
Are we using Elavon in here?
Yeah, it's the same company.
The other thing.
Well,
is-
Elavon integrates with Jonas.
Yes, it does.
I'm sorry, merchant services is the same as
As Elavon,
Elavon,
yeah.
gotcha.
Ah,
Okay, so
here we go with there.
how long does the club have to, or does the club have to be, I won't say down, but, how long are service disrupted from the time, let's say, Jonas is gonna come in and implement. What's the time frame between, we've shut down the old system and this thing is running?
Well, through all of that.
Yeah.
And then you don't pull the plug until training's done. And we're flawlessly ready to go. Pull the plug, plug the new one in.
Yeah, they go live and have a plan, but then Andrew will explain, because there's some other element, if you are gonna switch out the RFID,
Yeah.
so that's
Which, going in the RFID thing, I'm not sure if that's what that should have said. That was more for the way, for the club card, clubhouse card and the gate access. But that would actually solve the other
It
problem.
would solve that problem.
Right, so it really kind of eliminates the waiver liability because you'd be doing it again for the new company. Wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
So that would be wasted cost.
Or save money.
The one thing.
Yeah, you would.
The one thing I wasn't smart enough during the call to ask is, does it integrate with the carry system, Keith? Because you've got the current system out
Yeah,
here
that's not-
for access. Now, if we change to their RFID tag, what happens to the gate access out here? It's not clear to me at this point.
That's something we have to.
So there'd either have to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
integration with carry, and we should ask Eric.
Yeah, we will. I'll note
Or we
that.
may have to change it out to use.
And that's not a problem. The server for that is in the closet right across from my office for this building, the one at the front gate, that's completely different.
Yeah, no, that's unrelated. So this is something we've got to follow up on.
And also, there's they have an app that you can utilize that app for all your bookings, all of your, everything on your phone. And it's very user friendly, so, but even booking your lanes or whatever for the bowl or tennis or fitness.
You're talking about residents?
There's a
Residents
residents.
using that app to make
That's correct.
reservations for this, that, and whatever.
Yeah.
Probably
People would have to
marketing.
learn how to use the app.
But I imagine there's some marketing aspect to it too, so if you were gonna do a dinner special.
Yeah, we're able to
Drive
market.
traffic.
That's correct. We're able to send out specials or whatever it is to try to attract business.
Yeah, that's part of that activity.
But we have to use their marketing server, which is no extra cost. It's just
Right.
part of it.
But it's a big deal. I mean, any of us that have been through system conversions, it's not flawless. It's not seamless.
Right.
So that's a question maybe of timing, when we don't do it when there's 8 million people.
You probably wouldn't want to do it in season.
So you're proposing doing a changeover, let's say, starting in April?
It'd have to be towards the end of the season.
Towards the end of the season.
Right. We want to capture everybody that's here, but it would definitely be towards the end.
And I guess another question for Eric is, given that time schedule, if we accept this now, do they honor that pricing?
That pricing can be honored because this is 30 days, correct?
I don't know what your thoughts are. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
I think we need to do it myself.
You want to do it yourself?
Gonna build it from the bottom.
I think we've been talking about this for a long time. We all know that we need a better system. And if you guys have vetted this and are comfortable that this is a good system and one we should go with, then.
Yeah, and I think also, I'd like to go to a few facilities that has it in place.
Okay.
And ask them who they are, that we can visit and see it in operation.
Okay. So you want to do that before we as a board make the final decision? Or
It'll be outside the 30 days then.
Oh.
So
Julie
we
has already, I believe.
Yeah.
You've actually.
A couple country clubs, I mean, but we can go do a site visit, absolutely.
Kenny, you're not
But there
gonna
would
go?
be a plan, like Andrew said, because especially switching over the member card, you know, that would be a benefit to clean the system up. So there is that benefit.
Well, I haven't talked to our GM in my club up north, but I've talked to employees there,
Yes.
and they love it. They've implemented it. It was a process. I mean, it had ups and downs.
Yeah.
I should double check to see how long it actually took them. If it was more than the 6-week schedule, which wouldn't surprise me. They have a lot of outside events, so that they use that module a lot. The company I retired from, I spent 13 years in a software company that makes group sales and event management software, Delphi, if you've heard of that. We didn't compete with Jonas per se, but I know in talking to people that I've worked with from there, this is, the best product that's out there for this segment of the industry. So I have no doubt it can do what we would expect of it. The question is, can we do what we would expect of it? And
would it make any sense to get them to extend this to 60 days? Give us till the end of January to, and that time you can.
Yeah, I would definitely.
Do your looking around and whatever, and then we can make a decision on it. You want to try that? Because it seems like there's some questions that have come up that you're not satisfied with or that still need to be asked. And I'm getting the impression that the board is in favor of this, but maybe you want to get some other.
One more
answers.
vote of confidence, I got it.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Would you
What
go,
do you think, Julie?
would Kenny go with Andrew?
He can,
Make
sure.
some site visits, because I feel comfortable with him.
Sure. Well, you're going to get a good indication from the place in at home.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we do that? See if,
Okay.
and I'm sure they'll extend it.
It's still in our time frame of going with it in April, so.
And you don't have any concerns that they'll honor the price for another 30?
Well, that's a phone call,
They
so.
did raise it.
Well, if they would lock in the price, but maybe with a deposit, right?
But then you would need.
Because actually the price went up from
Yeah.
the quote from May, I believe the other quote was.
Well, it's a game, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll.
They're gonna want to
Get
say.
them to lock it in for another 30 days.
Like I said, deposit might move it.
I mean, it's a
This
big
is-
ticket item.
This is actually dated December 8th, and our next meeting is January 8th.
Oh, yeah. So we
No, it's probably 31 days.
Oh, I thought it was December 1st.
This letter is,
We could ask him
It
to
says-
extend it
this
a
is
week.
December 8th.
I don't-
Yeah,
Yeah, the new one.
It shouldn't be a week.
Oh,
I'm
I have to open here.
So a week should be.
You also need to discuss how you're gonna fund this.
I was just gonna ask that as a point of, Is there, how are we gonna fund it is really the question.
Well, my understanding is the current system was heavily damaged during the hurricane. Melinda's favorite. Just saying. A lot of electrical issues.
FEMA isn't gonna cover it.
No, I don't think.
No, FEMA's not gonna cover any recovery money with the assessment money there. It's,
Would this be capital?
I'm not sure from an accounting standpoint. I know the hardware, software, servers would all be capital. The training and data conversion, I'm not sure if that's capital or operating expense.
It's really up to you as a board,
As
as
to
to
well,
whether
I-
or not you want to pay it via the reserve or not. That's really your
Do
decision.
we have a separate
But,
capital reserve right now?
That
Yeah.
you, but that is reserved for your pickleball expenses. And it's not going to be,
It is,
when
so
everything
it's
is
already-
paid,
Got it.
what you need for this expenditure.
I think the overage from the last fiscal year came in.
Well, the question to answer is this, from a capital definition, while it's a new system, it's a replacement of an existing system. So it will come under traditional reserves.
Absolutely, it's a system.
When I say capital, I just mean it's capitalizable as opposed to
Yes.
operating expense.
Right.
Which reserve it comes from is debatable. I think there's an argument either way. But it is a replacement of an existing system. It's not like new,
And we are
never done before.
we are underspent on our reserves for a couple of reasons. I mean,
Yeah, no, I think it can be funded out of reserves.
and then we would do a budget amendment? Or no?
No,
Okay.
I'm waiting for that.
Okay, she's like, absolutely
Well,
not.
not now, but
Yeah.
it raises, it raises our operating expense, but if it's not gonna hit until, or start until April or May, you really only got about 4 months of it. So it's somewhat manageable.
So, where we going? We're gonna
Well, it sounds like we're gonna defer
ask for an extension
final
on this?
approval to the January 8th meeting.
Okay.
And Julie, you'll confirm with Eric that the
Right,
pricing will
if you
stay
can
in effect.
extend it just like a week.
Okay.
Okay. Sure.
All right, so we'll deal with this. This will be on the January 8th agenda. In the meantime, there'll be some homework that needs to happen. And we'll get some answers to some of the questions that were brought up.
Okay, moving on, we've hit our 3-hour mark. Does anybody need a break before we move on?
We'll take 5 minutes.
Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break at 12:36 PM.
we take a close look at the agenda and consider moving some of these items to January. We're running late and we'll never make our 4-hour limit. We don't.
We are back on the record at 12:46 PM.
Okay. So of the remaining items under business items, what can we easily move?
D, E, and F.
I'm with you.
Well, we don't need it.
F you don't need it.
Right.
Right. All right, so we can carry over D and E.
Those are more workshop conversations.
They absolutely are for sure. So
Okay, and-
I just wanted them on the docket.
Item I was already covered. Keith's getting another estimate on that one, so that's out.
For item H, we just need acceptance of the audit as presented.
Right, and doesn't seem to be anything glaring in that audit.
No, just a note regarding the budget amendment for the River Club, that was it.
So any other, I'll make a motion that we accept that.
Wait a minute. Is I on or off?
I is off because we're getting another proposal.
No,
that's H.
that's H. I is about the wall, the
Yeah.
fellow wall.
Concrete wall.
Yeah, I thought you said we had one.
No, I'm getting a second one for H, for the back gate.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
We should get another one for I.
Wall is not-
But I won't take one.
There's not many companies that,
The wall is only 7,000.
yeah.
I'm
So
sorry.
Livermore, tear down that wall.
So let's go to
Okay.
G.
So we're gonna move forward with item number 5G, which is the presentation of the audit for fiscal year end September 30th, 2022. This is behind tab number 5 for your review. Any questions? If there are no questions, we'd be looking for a motion to accept the audit as presented.
I'll make a motion that we accept the order as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. H is tabled.
Okay.
We now have item number 5I, which is the consideration of the coastal concrete products proposal for the perimeter fence. This is behind tab number 7 for your review.
Okay, $7,800?
Why is it dated January 1?
When we first had him come out,
Oh,
and then he said it was gonna be probably a year longer before he could get freed up. So I contacted him again, and he's about the price, and he said the price stands.
And this is on the north, this is
A fellow wall,
that way, yeah.
Are they panels?
yes.
Yeah.
I was like.
Yeah, it looked like the things they put off the highway.
yeah, most of that wall.
All right, so board members, I'll prepare a contract if you're planning to move forward.
Okay, do we need a motion to accept this?
Motion to approve, subject to preparation of an agreement by district council.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
You need a contract.
Any further discussion?
Rick and I were just discussing that. I mean, it's up to you, but I guess these fence companies aren't the most reliable in the world.
What? These fence companies.
Fence company?
Oh, it's kind of a fence, isn't it?
I would suggest an agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Got it.
Moving on, we now have item number 5A, which is a consideration of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting held on November 13, 2023. These are behind tab number 8 for your review. Are there any questions, comments, and/or changes to the minutes as presented?
I have no additional changes.
If there are no questions, comments, and/or changes, we could give for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Ernest?
Aye.
We now have item number 6B, which is a ratification of the operations and maintenance expenditures for the month of October 2023 These are behind tab number 9 for your review. The expenditures for the period of October 1st through 31st total to $187,601.15.
I'm expecting more pages.
Any questions? If there are no questions, we'd be looking for a motion to ratify.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're going to move forward with consent items. There are 7 sets of advisory committee meeting minutes for your review and acceptance. These are behind tab number 10.
There's a question about the accuracy of, about the, I believe it was the Racket Sports Committee meeting on the 9th.
Yeah, number 4,
Item 4.
They're gonna add, they been asked to add Temcar being in attendance. I would think that they would want to add Apollonia too, because she had comments in the same minutes.
Well, there's a meeting right after this, we'll deal with it.
So is it,
Pull
so
that
here's
out.
a question. Is it necessary
I
to
don't see it.
include in the minutes everybody from the public who was there? Because Belinda, you're not doing that.
No, actually,
It's not.
it's not.
It's not.
I wouldn't think so.
We all know what it's about.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, okay, so,
Oh, if it isn't necessary, then we don't have to do it. You want it, you can bring it up at the,
yeah, I'll bring it up.
Okay, fine.
I would move to not do it.
Also, do you want to pull those or do you want to accept them? The minutes from October 9th.
Yeah, I would like to accept it.
Okay. Well, you're the liaison.
I'll make a motion that we accept all 7 of the advisory committee meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
So I'm in.
Supervisor request or comments? Are there any supervisor requests or comments?
I have a couple. One, just to make sure, I think you all have them. We're updating the reserve study and wanted to make sure that all of the committees in their December and or January meetings are addressing it to the extent that they care to give us the most updated information we can get when we meet with custom reserves, probably in January. One of the bigger ones, obviously, is facilities.
And they're working, they've had been for some time, they're
Yeah,
working on it.
landscaping to some extent. Ernest Fitness has a number of items on the reserve list, so you might want to remind Nancy that we're looking for input from that committee as well. So that was one item.
Ken, what about Dan's comments? I don't know if you remember the email from Dan regarding the reserve study and their inclusion as part of it because of all of the different items that need to be, well, that he was recommending should be part of the reserve. There was an email some time ago regarding feedback that they wanted to provide on reserve items that should probably be
Should be
added.
Andrew was also
Okay,
copied on that. And that's a big piece of the input as well, the RIP Club. If you want more conversation on that, I'd be happy to meet with you. But that's coming up in January. And I think there were a couple of items that were not in the reserves that should have been, and I think that's what Dan was talking about. So you might touch base with him as well, to make sure we get those added. Sorry, I had one other. So,
Well, I want to talk about the reserve though. Can I
oh, I'm
just do
sorry,
that real
sure,
quick?
absolutely.
Is facilities looking at the bar in the reserve and talking about, because it's the one thing that social dining has brought up that they want to be considered for reserves, and if there would be a way to jointly talk
Yes,
about
you
that, that would
remind
be
me,
wonderful.
yeah, because actually that has been discussed and that's precisely what they have said they would like to do is make sure that they get feedback and it's a joint project, just to fully understand
Talking
that.
about a renovation.
Of the salad,
Of the
yes.
bar,
of
yeah,
the bar.
because it's packed every time now, every time there's a big event.
Yeah.
Standing room.
Yeah, no, that's actually something that,
Bars are big.
Take that.
yeah,
So anyway, yeah,
Yes,
just want to make that know, maybe we
absolutely.
can talk about it in the workshop.
absolutely.
Right, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Thank you, young man.
In that regard, I think we need to be a little careful that we don't get into so many projects that we can't handle it as an organization, and our management companies get overwhelmed. So just kind of keep that in the back of people's minds that we can't do everything at once. Because I'll tell you, if we go with a new system, that's 2 months of intense time consumption on a lot of parts. So we ought to just think about all the things we want to do and how we want to progress with them. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and I saved it to now, figuring there'd be nobody left in the audience, which proved to be the case.
Yeah, YouTube though.
That's fine. It's on the record. I want to raise the question, and I don't know what the right answer is, but our staff here, especially at the River Club, and I don't know to what extent at Rosetta, he's the only one on site and his assistant, but there's an inordinate amount of time spent one-on-one with residents on basically how this place should be run. And I just, my concern is we're not letting the management companies that we've hired do their jobs. We got too many people trying to tell them how to do their jobs who, may or may not know anything about what's going on. And they keep asking for information. They're taking up hours of Andrew's time, Sydney's time. I see people in there. It's different. I'm going to say it's different from one of us who may be researching something like a new system, as opposed to just coming in and saying, you ought to change the menu and do this and do that. What's their obligation to individual residents in terms of time consumption and the inability for all of these people to do their jobs effectively? I just appreciate people's comments, and maybe it's a good workshop discussion. We don't have to spend more than 5 minutes on it here.
One of the questions that, one of the comments that I made to Andrew when I interviewed him prior to he accepting this job was that just to be aware that there are people that are going to camp out on your doorstep. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure you remember that conversation. And to be cognizant of the time spent, and everybody, deserves an opportunity to have a little bit of time. But if there are people that are monopolizing your time or Sydney's time or anybody else that's up here, I think they can be politely asked to direct their comments to an appropriate committee that we have. If it's a dining issue or if it's a repair issue, we have facilities. And so that you can get back to work. I agree with what.
A lot of it is committee.
Yeah, and just. But there has to be some limitations on the amount of time your time that's taken, because you have a lot of stuff on your plate.
And you can certainly, if it is non-committee members, obviously committee members, you can say they should address it during a committee meeting. And if non-committee members, they should come as public comment to the committee meeting.
Yeah.
Because I agree, you can't get your job done if you're continually answering little tidbits and comments.
Well, one email becomes 10 emails.
Right.
And if it's a request for documents, that should go with that. She's the records custodian.
But the problem also you find too, is that all of a sudden you're starting to get a committee and they all have different and this committee member comes in, this committee member comes in, and all of a sudden you're trying to field, do 5 different things when it's, no, I'm sorry, you gotta go see, you gotta vote on it, that goes to the board directs us what to do, but they all get, all of a sudden you got 10 different things to do on one item. And so,
And maybe, I can also make that clear in the committee, because the committee should be appointing someone to speak to you if there are committee issues that are not addressed during the meeting, and so.
Chair.
Exactly, and
Chair.
so we can talk about that at the committee meeting as well, not a problem.
A lot of times they don't show up, that's the interesting part.
Dining, social and dining, they show up.
They do.
Yeah, oh, this is other committees, got it. So maybe we all need to have that conversation with our committees.
That'd be a good idea.
Well, I get the hot button issues, okay? And it's always something behind them. And it got so bad that they were calling Ginger, We have to have a talk and say, look, Ginger, don't accept these calls and all. That go through the correct channels and all. Like, who's monitoring when someone comes in, who goes out and all things like this. Then there's a lot, I hate to say it, gossip.
You're never gonna stop that.
Gossip.
Ernest,
Yeah,
you're never gonna stop that.
I deal with it too. So,
It's very difficult to manage the day-to-day when you're being pulled in so many different directions.
Sure.
And I think maybe reminding the committee members that they serve as advisory committees to the board, and that staff does not take direction from the committees will help. Because I can tell you, there are plenty of instances where somebody will walk into Andrew's office or Keith's office and demand something, and it's just very time consuming. You cannot manage the day-to-day when you're being pulled all over the place. And it's really not fair to him, it's not fair to Keith. The communications should be streamlined. The committee should discuss what they need, if they need anything in particular from the Vesta team or from Keith. And then one person is the designated person to obtain that information and send it to the liaison so it can be distributed to the committee. But it's very ineffective, and it's not just Andrew. I've heard this before from other managers. And there have been instances where some committee members actually get very irate, and they can be rude, and they'll be upset about the fact that they cannot get the information. But he can't manage the right way if he's not present in the day-to-day, which is where he should be.
So there's a discussion for everybody's committees, at your next meeting. Things need to be done the right way. And there's never an excuse for rude behavior on anybody's part at any time. We all get upset about different things, but some of the conversations that I know have taken place in Andrew's office are completely out of line. Completely out of line, shouldn't be happening. But if you could speak with your committees, that would be great. And I have one question, unless you had something else.
No.
The gentleman that offered the piano,
Yes.
yeah.
can we take advantage of that?
Yeah, I thought it was a great, I spoke to, Cameron spoke to me about it. I know there was a cost involved. Getting it delivered and set up like $1,100 or something.
Okay. Years ago, when I was on the social committee, as a liaison of the social committee, there was a thought about getting a piano. And at the time, this is a previous general manager, the problem was where to put it. And I thought that the entry, where we currently have that table with the flower arrangement, maybe it might go there. Because the thought of having it in a place where it had to get moved all the time, that became problematic. But if it were in one place, like maybe at the edge, and maybe we have lots of people here that play piano. And
it's a great thing.
Some jazzy type music or holiday themes or whatever it might be, could work. So just a
And he offered his services too.
Yeah, he said that he would play.
He plays everything from Elton John to Billy Joel to whatever.
Great.
Classical.
Great.
Yeah. One thing you might want to consider about that spot is the sound in there. The acoustics is terrible.
That's what I was thinking. I think the
It just,
acoustic.
just in a normal conversation, it just.
You might even want to consider where the tree is, because brunch has been working great, with service in there.
Yeah, that was,
And that's kind of a dead space.
Seems to be working out pretty well there.
And that way you'd get the whole dining room and it would even extend into the bar. I mean, you might want to test the sound once it gets here, but, and
Not like that, if you put drinks on it, if it's over there too.
Oh, no, we don't want that.
We don't want that.
there,
We don't want that.
Now, I wasn't clear on whether it was given to us.
It was loan.
Or
Loan.
it was loan.
it
No, it was
was on
loan.
permanent loan as long as we move it.
I think it was on permanent loan. That was my impression, but,
So that means you're
if
responsible.
we had to work out
for
some sort of a, I don't know,
Well, we have to have an agreement.
damage waiver, or I don't know what workouts would be, but I think it's something that you might pursue.
Oh, maybe, that's a good point though. Maybe we start with, do you have a kind of an agreement you could draft up just that says we're not responsible if somebody sets a drink on it?
Yeah, like a drink ring.
I never received a piano before. I'm sure we could come up with something.
It's a lacquer
I mean,
baby drink.
Because, yeah, it would be awful to accept it and then have to buy the guy a piano.
He's not just giving it to us.
No, it's permanent loan.
No, he said loan.
Why can't we put those ropes like I see around there so you can't get there with the drinks?
Yeah.
Which actually makes this corner
They'll
a
crawl
better
under.
option because it's out of the
They'll
way.
crawl under. It's not a piano bar. It's
We got people that.
All right, so we're gonna look into that
Anyway.
to see.
I'm sure I could come up with something. No problem.
Any other supervisor requests or comments?
Was Cheryl about to say something, or you?
I was gonna say, enjoy the holidays, enjoy this year, to be safe and everything. Thanks for all that you do for each other, me, and looking forward to next year when we come. And again, well done, job, Andrew.
Amen.
Thank you. Happy holidays to everybody.
Yes,
Happy holidays.
We'll see you
Happy New Year.
here. So a couple quick things. So Cheryl, I know you were thinking about drafting something for the newsletter for the subsidy / dining, et cetera. Is that something?
Yeah, it's going
Just trying to plan.
It's
for-
going to social and dining this next meeting, so we can have a
Okay.
conversation about it. And the
Okay.
other thing I wanted to talk about at social and dining is where is the best place and how is the best to get that distributed? Because we might want, is it best, who's it best coming from is what I'm saying. So things get a lot of play when they come from a resident versus when they come out in the newsletter, it's got our slant on it. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but maybe it needs multiple venues. So I also have a call into the author of the one response to see if he would be willing to have a broader dispersion. So anyway, yes, but it is going to social.
Well, I've got
Yeah.
300 people on my blog.
You do. You do.
I did great.
I'm still trying to figure out how the first email went to 800. Remember the first email this all started because there was an email from, I think, Mr. Goodman, and then a response by Mr. McKeever.
Right.
And I think the original email went to like 800 people, and I was trying to figure out where that list came from.
That was Keith's list, right? Or, yeah,
Was
that
it
was a
your
constant
list?
contact list, right?
The constant contact isn't my list. The list I have is not constant contact.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Oh.
So anyway, that's a great workshop, maybe conversation as well, because I'll be ready to bring it back to the
Okay.
next board meeting, and then we can talk about how is it best distributed to get as many eyes on it as possible.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay. So the two other things I had, the first was in terms of, I still think we owe the community some kind of a running tally of what we're spending against the assessment. So I don't know. how
As we spend it.
Sure. I
We
think
said we
should.
would.
Yeah,
We
so I think
are.
we should.
And
And
that
I'm
comes-
trying to keep a list myself.
Well, we have
But I-
$103,000 this morning.
Yep, and we also had, well, we've already had some.
Yeah, plus,
Yeah.
and people need to be
Well,
reminded
that
300,000.
money's going right back to last year.
But
Yeah,
that's not
nothing's,
part- right.
I know.
nothing's been spent on the assessment yet.
Yet, nothing yet.
So that's what I said last time,
Right.
nothing's been spent yet, we've been using current funds.
Even for the pickleball, pitchapple.
Pickleball is not, it's
Nothing
not
to do with the
assessment
assessment,
related,
Not a part of it.
not a part at all.
Because that was in the original guesstimate list.
The pitch apple, yes, which
Yes.
hasn't been done or
Right.
paid for yet, which is why I'm saying we
Right,
haven't,
Okay, and that's part of it, it's
But
like
we
in my
will
own
do
head,
that.
I've got it jumbled.
we will do that.
Yeah, okay. So the last thing I wanted to address, it was unfortunate that I was standing in the airport, but I do want to address the comment about me being outside my lane that I had at the last meeting, and at a prior meeting where I was told I was outside my lane again. And I just want to preface this by saying, you know, I love you all, we're all neighbors. In both of those cases, I was looking for information. I wasn't unilaterally doing something, ordering someone to do something. All I was trying to do in both the case of asking for a landscape assessment for, an estimate of what it would cost if we were going to do 300 feet on the Medici berm, and in the case of the tennis connection agreement. All I was looking for was information. My process, as most of you probably know, is I'm a data person. I need data. I'm not aware that I was elected into a lane or within a boundary. It's my process. And I would just ask, you know, if you don't like it, I get it. And hopefully you would respect that I'm just looking for information for myself, for my own process. And I would hope that what I'm doing is illegal, that Andy would tell me. But beyond that, that's the way I work, and I'm not going to stop asking for information. So, enough said.
No, shouldn't you?
Nor should
We
you.
all should be asking for.
Well, I didn't feel that anybody was particularly happy with either of those two incidents. Both you, Ken and Ernest, we're not happy that I asked for that contract. It's a lot of money.
No, well, you misunderstood me then. We all should review that contract.
Mhm.
It just wasn't available yet.
I understand, I understood that. I understood that.
But if you understood that, why would you be asking for something that isn't available yet? When it's available,
I had said
we're all
that I
gonna
would
get
like
it.
to review it, that was all. So maybe I misunderstood.
It sounded, no, but it sounded like
Okay.
you didn't get
Okay.
something you asked for because it wasn't going to be given to you, as opposed to when it's available,
No,
we'll all get it.
okay, fine and dandy. Okay.
That's
but-
all I was.
Moving forward on this, you bring up a good point. And I will say that sometimes I find it difficult with calling in too. You know, you don't see the faces.
Sure.
You know, you don't
Yep.
actually know.
Yep.
But you bring up a good point, and I think it's well taken by everybody here, and moving forward, I think we all understand.
Fabulous.
Well, I'm just gonna take a minute to respond, because I know one of the things you was talking about is the bid you requested from him.
I didn't request a bid.
But he got a bid somehow.
I had got, I think it was Keith trying to do a thorough job. Look, so I should explain. What happened was, I got a call from a friend who was at the end of Medici. And I said, can I come over? It was right in Masco. I said, can I come over and look? And so I went over and I looked and I paced it out. And I said, John, I'm just curious, you know, because we talked about the Medici berm, and which is a big number. And I heard some people say, oh, you know, why are we spending money on the perimeter? You know, who sees it but people on the perimeter? And I was curious what 300 feet of plants would cost, just so I could understand it against the context of the 90-something thousand Medici berm. So Keith had kindly approached Bill to say, you know, what would it look like? It was not getting a bid. So I was very surprised when I got a document. I was just curious, back of the envelope, what's the number?
So, and from my perspective, I will just say that from my perspective, the landscape committee kind of said, well, what are we here for? That's what I was trying to deal with. So it was, if there's a question about landscaping or something on the landscaping list, the landscape committee could certainly get you all the information that you need. And so, and the question I was faced with was, so if I had a question about the bar,
right,
rather than working with facilities, would I go try and get information from Keith about how much it would cost to restructure the bar? I absolutely would not. I would go to you and say, or to your committee and say,
Yeah.
are you guys looking at this and can you get more information? So it was really just, you're right, it's a process issue. It's how people process. But I'm also, I deal with the committees, my committees a lot on what are we here for? We are trying to advise the board on things, and we would like to be the home for those things. That was where
Yeah.
my comment.
Yeah, I only did it because, you know, I know Keith talks to Bill all the time, and I was just curious, what's a cocktail napkin guesstimate of 300 feet, just so I could understand? What is it? So, that's all.
Oh, here, please pass these down.
Boy, I already
gave-
have one.
She already has one, I complied with her request, even though I.
Oh, aren't you sweet?
But let me just like, I understand what's going on, and that's all I said. Okay?
What is that?
I just say, I understand what's going on, I'm not going to.
Oh, this is-
Don't,
I don't sit there
Ernst,
and
that's
propose
all
it.
fair. We get along.
Okay,
I'm a
that's not
information
you,
bureau.
it's not you. You get the kid, like, Belinda couldn't read the letters or something because Ernest said not to.
Oh.
You see, you guys don't know what is going on. I get it, okay? I get it. And most of my life, I got it. When I dealt with, I dealt with it, okay? So that's all I was, not like mine, outside of town. Okay, that's it.
Anything else? Wait a minute. This is already executed.
Yes,
It's not ours to.
but because it's not our contract.
That's
That's the whole
So it's
point.
strictly information.
Yes.
So all I asked for was information.
Anything else? I thought we'd see a draft of the contract.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
We need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned at 1:17 PM.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Oh, happy holidays.